Chapter 393. The beautiful waitress was at most in her early 20s, and her cultivation was only at the golden core stage. When she saw the 10 people walking towards her, especially the man and 2 women walking in front, even though she had seen countless handsome men and beautiful women, she couldn't help but be a little surprised. She was at the age of yearning for love, so naturally her eyes focused on Chen Hao. She had a professional smile on her face. Although she didn't show any infatuated expression, the joy in her heart was obvious. After hearing Chen Hao's words, she was even more surprised. This is really a handsome, rich and Prince Charming with a high cultivation level. But when the waitress dared to answer Chen Hao, she suddenly froze, and a touch of red appeared on her small face. Immediately, she looked at the crowd, a little nervous, a little embarrassed, and said, "I'm sorry. Sir, our luxurious private room already has guests. Then arrange for a private room on the top floor." Chen Hao carried a trace of a faint smile. His pitch-black and deep eyes stared straight at the beautiful attendant as he spoke once more. "I'm sorry. Sir, all the private rooms on the top floor have been reserved." The beautiful waitress said again nervously, looking at Chen Hao, although she tried to hide it, but in the end it was still a little strange. When Zhang Rongrong, Jing Tiangang, and others heard the waitress' words, they were relieved and secretly happy. "Why are they all full? It's not easy for me to treat my brothers to a drink. Your hotel business is really good. Forget it, just arrange a private room." Chen Hao seemed a little depressed and said, "Okay, please follow me." The beautiful waitress's face was a little red, and she obediently led Chen Hao and others to a private room on the second floor. The lowest price for a private room on the second floor was 200,000 high-grade primordial crystal stones. Under normal circumstances, the lowest price was enough. But if they ordered the most expensive wine, they still couldn't resist. "Follow us to the most expensive." After stepping into the private room, Chen Hao said again like a lord, "No. Temporary boss, the most expensive wine is boring. Our proud heaven is established for the first time. The most expensive wine is exciting." Before the pretty attendant could say sorry, Gao Dazhuang interrupted her. "Yes, the fiercest heart-piercing fire. Waiter, I want that. 100 bottles first. This is what men drink." Jing Tiangang immediately said. Hearing everyone's words, Chen Hao smiled and looked at them saying, "This is what you guys want. So be it. Tan Hui, Bai Xiao, Mei, Huan Lele. What do you guys want to drink?" "I'll just drink tea." Tan Hui, who was a good wife and mother, said softly with a faint smile on her face. "How can that be? We women can't be outdone by them. This wine is made from spirit items of heaven and earth. It's good stuff. Besides, this is proud heaven's wedding. We have to drink it." Bai Zhao's voice was so sweet that it was as if she was a heroine among women. "Little Hui, then drink less. It's fine. I'm happy today," Zhang Rongrong said. Hearing Zhang Rongrong's words, Tan Hui nodded. He didn't say anything more. "We can't drink alcohol." The sisters couldn't help but interject. No, we have to drink even if we can't. We're all family. It's fine if we get drunk. We can go back and refine ourselves," Bai Xiao Mei said strongly. At the same time, she looked at the pretty attendant saying, "In addition to the wine, bring us some food. I'll take a look at the menu." Bai Xiao Mei took the menu from the pretty waiter and ordered a bunch of food. To cultivators, eating was something they could do without. Other than a few extremely greedy people who often ate, the vast majority of people would only eat on such occasions as a form of enjoyment. Cultivators were like boats going against the current. They were constantly cultivating. Who would delay their cultivation for a fixed period of time, every day just to eat? That was impossible. It's not that they didn't like to eat, but they didn't have time. After Bai Xiao Mei finished ordering, the pretty attendant put away the menu and looked at Chen Hao saying, "Do you want anything else?" "That's all," Chen Hao said with a smile. "Okay." The beautiful attendant responded and turned to walk out. "Thank you, little beauty. These guys are all prodigals. As their big brother, I really can't bear to see them squander." Chen Hao said telepathically. You're welcome." The pretty attendant, who was blushing, paused for a moment and said with a trembling voice. In reality, Chen Hao was just joking with this bunch of fellows. Although there weren't many ready-made primordial crystal stones, there were still 3 million high-grade primordial crystal stones and 200,000 top-grade primordial crystal stones. According to the basic exchange rate, it was still 5 million high-grade primordial crystal stones. Not to mention how much wealth he had. Even Chen Hao couldn't estimate. Anyway, it was enough for him to squander. But if he didn't have to waste, he wouldn't waste. This was his principle. The food and wine were quickly served. Everyone started to fight, and Chen Hao, the temporary boss, was undoubtedly the target of everyone's bombardment. Even the beautiful sisters suffered. What surprised Chen Hao was that this so-called heart-piercing fire was the strongest wine that Chen Hao had ever drunk in this world. It was not inferior to the wine on earth. What was even more amazing was that this kind of wine couldn't be dissolved even by activating his true yuan. When he drank it, he felt a burning sensation from his throat to his heart. In an instant he felt light and floaty. This made Chen Hao realize that in this world, there was still good wine. Just that, in less than 5 minutes, the beautiful sisters collapsed on their seats. Their faces were red, and they looked even more beautiful. They leaned on each other, and could no longer stay awake. Chen Hao took out 2 long robes and covered the 2 of them, letting the 2 of them lean against the exaggerated chairs to sleep. If women don't get drunk, men don't have a chance. Temporary boss, how is it? The brothers are treating you well, right? Come, let me toast you again. Let's drink again. Jing Tiangang looked at Chen Hao and said, these 2 girls might be pretending. Temporary boss, don't waste their good intentions. Bai Xiaomei laughed and said, back then, my family's zhuang was taken by me like this. Chen Hao and Jing Tiangang spat out the wine that they just drank. Damn, is there a better Taoist companion than this? Say, it's fine if you're a woman who's big and tall, but why do you have to babble on and on with such an annoying voice? It's fine if you only have this kind of voice, but why do you have to say something that doesn't match this kind of voice at all? You even have to giggle. Ahem. Xiaomei, I didn't pretend to be drunk back then. So you're saying that you're not willing? No. I was drunk when I saw you. Wine doesn't intoxicate people, but people get drunk on themselves. These 2 people completely disgusted everyone. Other than Tan Hui, whose face was red, who still had a smile on her face, she didn't have any reaction. Zhang Rongrong, Jing Tiangang, Bailey Lianqing, and Chen Hao all had a vomiting expression. On the contrary, the tall and strong first king looked at the 2 with envy. Yes, it was envy. Damn, temporary boss. Brothers, let's toast to Ao Tian. This cup of wine, I'll say the ugly words first. Tomorrow, Ao Tian will start to accept missions. Within a month, whoever obtains the highest number of points will be the leader. Whoever can maintain the lead for half a year will be the final leader. What do you think? Zhang Rongrong said. No problem. However, we have to calculate the points by individuals. Taoist companions can't compare your points to ours. Of course. The recorder can record everything. Zhang Rongrong said. 2 hours later, the 100 square meter heart-piercing fire was finished. Gao Dazhuang didn't know if it was because the wine didn't intoxicate him, but he was drunk or if he was really drunk. Anyway, he was carried by Xiaomei in her arms and didn't even let out a fart. Zhang Rongrong, who was originally fine, suddenly fell onto the table and started snoring loudly. Soon after, as if they sensed something, Bailey Lianqing and Jing Tiangang also fell onto the ground with a pung-pung sound, looking like they were unconscious. First King and Chen Hao stared at each other. Tan Hui smiled apologetically. Bai Xiaomei did not even look at Chen Hao and the First King. She looked at Gao Dazhuang, who was sleeping soundly, with a disgusting look in her eyes. She sat down and looked at the sleeping Gao Dazhuang, as if she was looking at a treasure. Damn it. First King couldn't help but curse. He looked at the waiter who was waiting at the door and glanced at Chen Hao from time to time and said, "Pay the bill." The total is 238,000 high-grade primordial crystal stones. The beautiful waiter said, "This is 250,000. Keep the change." When First King was about to take out the primordial crystal stones, Chen Hao took out a storage ring and passed it to the beautiful waiter. He said, The rest is for you to cultivate. Ah. The beautiful waiter was shocked. Cough cough. First King looked at Chen Hao in surprise. Talking about money hurts feelings. I am the boss. Can't I treat you guys to a drink? It's a pity that the private room on the top floor is gone. Let's go. Fuck. It can't be. What a loss. Bailey Lianqing, Jing Tiangang, Zhang Rongrong, and Gao Dezhuang all stood up. They didn't look drunk at all. Chen Hao carried the sisters with each hand. The sisters' heads were placed on Chen Hao's neck. They were like two sheep waiting to be slaughtered, soft and soft. Zhang Rongrong and the others followed behind in high spirits. Under the beautiful waiter's gaze, they gradually disappeared. When Chen Hao and the others disappeared, the beautiful waiter's slightly red and shy face revealed a faint smile. The corners of her bright red lips curled up slightly. His entire aura seemed to have changed into another person all of a sudden. Although she was beautiful, she was like the little sister next door. But now, although her clothes didn't change at all, she gave people a feeling of being high and mighty. Eastern Continent Chen Hao, Heavenly Mist City's Lung Clan's beautiful sisters, Eastern Sea Islands Zhang Rongrong, Tan Hui, Northern Continent's Gao Dazhuang, by Xiao Xiao Mei. Song Yuan City's first king, Bailey Lianqing Jing Tiangang. The 10 people's names were clearly stated by the young girl. Chapter 394. Miss Meng, how do you feel? When the beautiful waitress came to a room in the tavern's inner courtyard, an old man sitting in the room raised his head and asked. The layout of the room was very simple. There was a tea table with exquisite cups on it. 2 old men sat on the left and right of the table. If Chen Hao and the others were present, they would definitely recognize one of the old men. It was the old man in charge of helping them register the Guardian group. The other old man who asked the question was the owner of the tavern. Not bad. The age, natural talent, and cultivation of these 10 people are indeed rare geniuses. Especially that Chen Hao. Even I feel a trace of a dangerous aura from him. The beautiful attendant spoke in a light voice. As he spoke, his body flashed with a resplendent light. Then his appearance underwent a shocking change. She who originally looked like a little girl next door, now looked like a beautiful and arrogant princess. Her features were picturesque and her skin was whiter than snow. What was more shocking was that her realm aura had changed to the middle stage of the primordial spirit realm. She continued. However, they are still a plate of loose sand and are very arrogant. Such people can be fine as a single soldier, but definitely not as a group. A mountain can't have 2 tigers, let alone 6. Miss Meng, what do you mean? Let's observe for a while more. If First King, Bailey Lianqing and Jing Tiangang saw this girl, they would be very surprised. It could be said that in the entire Song Yuan city, any native would have heard of this girl's name even if they had never seen her before. As the leaders of the younger generation in Song Yuan city, how could First King and the other 2 not know this girl? Meng Xiao. Meng Xiao, one of the granddaughters of the Meng family head of Song Yuan city. She was one of the 2 most dazzling figures of the younger generation in Song Yuan city. The other dazzling figure was the direct descendant of the Huyan family, Huyan Aobua. The 2 of them were stronger than First King, Jing Tiangang, and Bailey Lianqing. The Meng family and Huyan family's current patriarchs were very close. When Meng Xiao and Huyan Aobua were 10 years old, both families had arranged a marriage between the 2 of them. It could be said to be a strong alliance. In the beginning, when the 2 of them were young, they did not see each other and did not care about the engagement. However, when the 2 of them were 16 years old, the 2 great families started to let them interact with each other. To everyone's surprise, this pair of Golden Boy and Jade Girl were like natural enemies. Neither of them gave a damn about the other. But because of the relationship between the 2 families, neither of them could bring up the idea of breaking off the engagement. After all, no matter which side proposed to break off the engagement first, it would be very embarrassing for the other side. However, the 2 of them were very determined. Huyan Aobua and Meng Xiao privately agreed that within 3 years, whoever had the highest level of guardian could propose to break off the engagement, and the other party would agree unconditionally. After stepping out of the tavern, the First King, Bailey Lianqing, and Jing Tiangang parted ways with everyone. Naturally, they all returned to their own clans. Zhang Ronghui Gaodazhuang, and the other two brought Chen Hao, who was carrying the two girls, to the entrance of the palace complex that was specially built for guardians. Zhang Ronghui and the other three had already rented a place, so when they arrived, they just greeted Chen Hao and went to their own palaces. Chen Hao, on the other hand, carried the two drunk girls to the entrance of the reception. Under the strange gaze of the waitress, he booked a palace that was big enough for the three of them to live in. It's really similar. Just as Chen Hao carried the two of them and found the number of his palace, and used the token to open the palace door, a young man stared at Chen Hao's back and muttered. This figure was the young master of the Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce, Lin Hao. Brother, you've been following me all the way. What's the matter? At this moment, Chen Hao suddenly turned around. His eyes flashed with a sharp light as he looked at Lin Hao and asked. Cough cough. Lin Hao was slightly startled and said, Brother, this one is Lin Hao from Emerald Smoke City. I mean no harm. Emerald Smoke City? No matter who you are, it's not appropriate to be so sneaky, is it? Yes, I won't hide it from you. 2 days ago at the Alliance Palace, this one saw you. You really look too much like a friend of mine. How should I address you, brother? That brother of mine is from the Eastern Continent, surnamed Chen Hao. Lin Hao said awkwardly. In his opinion, the young man in front of him couldn't be Chen Hao. Therefore, when faced with the other party's questioning, he could only truthfully explain. Eastern Continent, Chen Hao? Hearing Lin Hao's words, Chen Hao was a little dumbfounded. His gaze looked up and down Lin Hao's face. When did I have such a brother? Yes, but it's a pity that my brother. Lin Hao shook his head and said, I'm very sorry to disturb you, brother. I live in this palace. Lin Hao finished speaking, cupped his fists, bowed, and was about to leave. In fact, he wasn't following Chen Hao, but the palace he was blocking was right next to Chen Hao's. Wait, Lin Hao, right? How come I don't remember having a brother like you? But what's wrong with me? Chen Hao called out to Lin Hao and asked rather strangely. Hearing Chen Hao's words, Lin Hao's eyes widened to the size of copper bells. Obviously, he was extremely shocked as he stared blankly at Chen Hao and said, You're Chen Hao? The Eastern Continent's Chen Hao? It's the real deal. How is this possible? You and Chen Hao weren't at the 9 Nether Frost Pool. Ah. I know, I must have guessed wrongly. After receiving Chen Hao's confirmation, Lin Hao's mind raced and he instantly understood what was going on. Without a doubt, the man and woman he saw at the 9 Nether Frost Pool back then weren't Chen Hao. Otherwise, the person in front of him couldn't be Chen Hao. When Chen Hao heard Lin Hao muttering to himself, his heart skipped a beat, and he frowned slightly. Obviously, when he and Chen Shui were at the barrier of the 9 Nether Frost Pool, the young man in front of him had seen it before. You haven't been to the 9 Nether Frost Pool, have you? You mean the 9 Nether Frost Pool, one of the top 10 mysterious forbidden lands? Yes. I haven't been there. Chen Hao lied decisively. How do you know me? I don't think I've seen you before, right? Let alone brother. Ahem. Brother Chen, I'm really sorry. I really didn't expect you to be the Eastern Continent's Chen Hao. Although you don't know me, I know you. To tell you the truth, I'm the young master of the Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce. I learned about brother's situation from the appraiser, and wanted to invite you to train together. I didn't expect you and your cultivation partner to leave early. Later, at the 9 Nether Frost Pool, I saw a young couple trapped in the barrier of the 9 Nether Frost Pool. That couple really looked like Brother Chin and your cultivation partner. At that time, I felt very sorry. There's such a thing. Chen Hao pretended to be surprised and said. However, he had made up his mind to not reveal the slightest bit of information. Otherwise, if others knew that he and Chen Shui could enter the 9 Nether Frost Pool, they would be in big trouble. Perhaps those above the creation realm, or even those at the immortal venerable realm, would come to catch him. That's the truth. If I didn't know that you're Chen Hao, I would have thought that you. Fortunately, it's not you. Brother Chen, I've embarrassed myself in front of you. Although we don't know each other, I even admire you. You and your cultivation partner killed 30 peerless geniuses of the Southern Sea Islands with one sword strike. It's very impressive. I won't disturb you today. Tomorrow, I wonder if you can do me the honor and let me treat you to a drink? Ahem. After hearing Lin Hao's words, Chunhao realized that he was still hugging two charming women. He coughed awkwardly and said, "Another day. Tomorrow, our guardian group has already made an appointment to start the mission." "Brother Chen, what guardian group did you join? Can I join you?" The guardian group I was in was established by a few older brothers in Emerald Smoke City. Their guardians have all reached the 3rd level and left Songyuan City the day before yesterday. Not for now. We've just registered as a guardian group. We haven't decided on the real boss yet. Let's wait for another month, Chunhao said with a slight frown. Although Chunhao didn't know Lin Hao at all, he could feel that Lin Hao was not simple. It would be good if he could be absorbed into proud heaven. After hearing Chunhao's words, Lin Hao pondered for a moment. Obviously, he didn't understand Chunhao's words. But after hesitating for a moment he said, "Okay, then I'll wait for your news. I'll be staying in this palace." "Okay." After stepping into the palace with two soft and delicate bodies in his arms, Chunhao was sober even though he was drunk. He didn't dare to have sex after drinking. He just casually felt the charm of the two women's perky buttocks, and directly put the two sleeping women into separate rooms. Then he walked into his own room and relaxed for once before falling into a deep sleep. What Chunhao didn't know was that after he returned to his room, the sisters, who seemed to be completely drunk, opened their eyes one after another. They pouted their pink little lips and revealed a faint smile. Their rosy cheeks seemed very cute. They touched their little buttocks one after another, and their little faces became even redder. After holding on for 2 hours and confirming that it was safe, Lung Ningle tiptoed to Lung Ninghuan's room. "Sister, did you guess correctly?" "Not completely. He just didn't dare to touch us. He was hugging us so it wasn't very obvious." "What do you mean by obvious? Don't tell me he touched here." Lung Ningle said and reached out to touch Lung Ninghuan's soft breasts. "Stupid girl, go away. Hurry up and go back. Don't let him find out. Otherwise it'll be so embarrassing. It's already been 2 hours. Can't we sober up?" "Elder sister, are you in heat?" "You're the one in heat. You're the one who pretended to be drunk, not me." Just like what Gao Dazhuang and Bai Xiaomei said, if he really did that to us under the influence of alcohol, would you wake up? Do you even need to ask? We're just testing if he's a gentleman. Tisk. Go lie to others. I can feel it clearly. Why are you hiding it from me? Maybe he can feel it too. You're so excited. You're the one who got me excited. If not, I wouldn't be so excited. It's obviously you. It's you. Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios, the young genius of the Yang family, Yang Fan, went crazy in recent years. No treatment worked and he became crazier and crazier. Only he knew that his craziness was because he was possessed by multiple souls. However, with his incredible willpower, he was unable to be possessed by the souls in his body. This time, just as he was about to fight with his life on the line, the grass wanted to possess him too. "If they want to kill me, I'll kill them first." Swallowing the demon grass made Yang Fan's soul stronger, and he destroyed multiple souls in one fell swoop. Other than fusing with their souls, he also gained the ability to communicate with all plants. Those who like urban novels can read it without worry. If you like this novel, you're welcome to come to Qidian. Come to vote. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 395. The sky was getting brighter. The Alliance's mission distribution hall was bustling with activity early in the morning. There were groups of guardian groups and individual guardians. They all gathered under the mission distribution boards in the hall, waiting for the mission distribution time. There were a total of 10 mission distribution boards, and they were divided into level 1 to level 10 missions. Guardians who did not join the guardian group could only take on missions of the same level as the other guardians. The guardian group could take on missions of a higher level than the guardian group. This rule was to protect the guardians, but to the talented and powerful guardians, it limited their performance to a certain extent. Because of this, in order to facilitate the training of the independent guardians, the Alliance also introduced a policy. The guardian group could temporarily join forces with some independent guardians to take on missions together. 30% of the points and rewards obtained by the independent guardians would be taken by the guardian group. The guardian group could also join forces with other guardian group. When their strength reached a certain level, they could take on missions. Exterminate the monsters in Sky Tiger City. Mission Level 3. Mission duration, 10 days. Reward points, 100,000. Reward, 1 million upper grade primordial crystal stones. Requirements, 1 Level 3 Guardian Group, 10 Level 2 Guardian Group, 20 Level 1 Guardian Group. The number of guardians must reach 500. 100,000 points, such a high reward. A large team mission. Take this. A large team can lead Level 1 and Level 2 Guardian Group. This is the favorite of the Wild Wolf Group. Hehe. Finally, when the time came, a golden light flashed on the Level 3 mission distribution board, and a new mission appeared. A Level 3 Guardian Group, the Wild Wolf Group, took the initiative to grab a spot in the Level 3 Guardian Group as soon as they saw the mission. After a while, the name, level, and mission success rate of the Level 3 Guardian Group that took on the mission were marked at the bottom of the mission. The leader of the Level 3 Guardian Group also became the key person in choosing the Level 2 Guardian Group, Level 1 Guardian Group, and independent guardians. First, to ensure the absolute leadership of the Level 3 Guardian Group. Second, only by choosing a suitable Guardian Group could the completion rate of the mission be guaranteed. The completion rate of the mission was an important indicator for the promotion of the Guardian Group. For example, if a Level 1 Guardian Group wanted to be promoted to a Level 2 Guardian Group, they had to complete more than 100 missions. There was no limit to the level of the mission, but the completion rate had to reach 90% before they could apply for the promotion of the Guardian Group. At this time, they had to complete 10 missions of the same level, and the highest difficulty is the assessment. If they could complete all 10 missions, they would be promoted to Level 2 Guardian Group. If he couldn't, he would have to wait 2 months before he could apply again. Therefore, when the Level 3 Guardian Group chose Level 2 Guardian Group, Level 1 Guardian Group, and Independent Guardian, it was also when the Level 2 Guardian Group chose Level 3 Guardian Group. If the Level 3 Guardian Groups did not have confidence in the Level 3 Guardian Groups, and no one was willing to join, the mission could only be led by the other Level 3 Guardian Groups. There were only 20 minutes left. In fact, it was a two-way selection process. Welcome all powerful Level 2 Guardian Groups, Level 1 Guardian Groups, and individuals. There were limited spots, so they had to hurry. I believe everyone is very clear about the strength of our Wild Wolf Pack. More than 20 cultivators from the Wild Wolf Pack stood together, each of them exuding an extremely powerful aura. Even the weakest among them was at the mid-stage Essence Spirit realm. Their leader, who stood in the middle, was at the pinnacle of Primordial Spirit Advanced stage. The Wild Wolf Pack isn't anything good. We don't have any influence on our Guardian Pack. In any case, their mission completion rate is relatively high. Let's add him in. Many experienced Level 1 and Level 2 Guardian Group and male independent cultivators said. Wild Wolf Protection Group. Mission completion rate, 95%. It was much higher than the 90% baseline. A Guardian Group like this was considered one of the more outstanding Level 3 Guardian Groups. However, the Wild Wolf Protection Group did not have a good reputation. Just like their name, they were lustful. Although there was no evidence, the percentage of female cultivators who died in their missions was relatively high. The reward for eliminating an ancient city's monster is this little? How much can we get if there are a total of 500 people? However, the points are not bad. On average, each person will get 200 points, which is enough to cultivate in the cultivation dojo for 200 days. Among the crowd, Chunhao and the others stood in front of the Level 2 mission bulletin. After hearing the Wild Wolf Protection Group shout, Chunhao glanced at the mission introduction on the Level 3 mission bulletin, and thought to himself, what about the mission? We don't lack primordial crystals, but we lack points. The points for this mission are obviously several times more than the other missions. Why don't we work with them? The Wild Wolf Protection Group isn't anything good, especially towards women. If you guys aren't worried, I naturally don't have any objections. Jing Tiangang glanced at it and frowned slightly. Jing Tiangang and Bailey Lianqing were the first to pass the Guardian test. They had also received missions for a period of time, so they naturally heard a little about the Wild Wolf Protection Group. What are you talking about? I don't care about them. If they dare to have any evil thoughts towards Xiaomei, I guarantee that I'll kill them until they're all generals without an army left. Emph. Gao Dazhuang glanced at the 20 over people in the Wild Wolf Protection Group and said with disdain. However, other than the first king who had a special sense of beauty, Chen Hao and the others wanted to tell Gao Dezhuang that he could be 120% at ease. If they dare to have evil thoughts, then we'll kill them all. Let's go. Chen Hao looked at Zhang Rongrong and Tan Hui. When he saw that they were not afraid, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly, and he said coldly. After he finished speaking, he took the lead and walked towards the Wild Wolf Protection Group. The first king and the others looked at Chen Hao with a little surprise. As for Gao Dazhuang and Bai Xiaomei, they were a little unconvinced. Obviously, when they said that they were all generals without an army, they were not confident that they could kill the leader of the Wild Wolf Protection Group, who was at the peak of the late-stage primordial spirit realm. However, when Chen Hao said that he would kill them all, it meant that Chen Hao had the strength to do so. Hello. I'm Chen Hao, the leader of the Proud Heavens Protection Group. We would like to join. May I? Chen Hao said directly when he led the 10 people in front of the Wild Wolf Protection Group. Of course, of course. Welcome. Aren't you the first king, Jing Tiangang, and Bailey Lianqing? What a strong group. I'm Hu Bolong. Nice to meet you all. When the members of the Wild Wolf Protection Group saw Chen Hao and the 10 people walking towards them, although they did not show it on their faces, they were already excited. Their eyes unconsciously glanced at the sisters and Tan Hui a few more times. Not to mention the two beautiful sisters, even Tan Hui was enough to make these guys a little impatient. How could they not agree? Moreover, although the auras of Chen Hao and the others were at the early stage primordial spirit realm, they were extremely strong. This was especially so when they knew the first king and the other two. After Chen Hao took out the Proud Heavens Protection Group's leader token, and established a communication link with the leader of the Wild Wolf Protection Group, Hu Bolong, to confirm that they would join the mission. A young girl in black clothes and a black bamboo hat slowly walked in front of Chen Hao and the others. Hello. The young girl, whose appearance could not be seen clearly, cupped her fists and greeted Chen Hao and the others. What a strong aura. This young girl is not simple. Chen Hao and the others thought to themselves. The young girl's aura was extremely young. She was probably only 2 years older than Chen Hao. However, she was extremely strong. Based on her aura alone, everyone was certain that she was a super genius who was not inferior to the 10 of them. Hello, beautiful. Do you want to join the Proud Heavens? My name is Jing Tiangang, the future leader of the Proud Heavens. I welcome you to join us. Before Chen Hao could say anything, Jing Tiangang stepped forward and said enthusiastically. Although her face could not be seen and her figure could not be seen through the loose black robe, Jing Tiangang was tempted by the young girl's talent. Bullshit. Beautiful. I am the future leader of the Proud Heavens. My name is Bailey Lianqing. Nice to meet you. How should I address you? Ming Xiao. The young girl lowered her voice and said lightly, Ahem. Jing Tiangang and Bailey Lianqing, who were originally full of anticipation, became extremely embarrassed after hearing the young girl's words. They hurriedly returned to their original positions like mice who had seen a cat. Miss Meng? The first king said, a little surprised. Compared to the two guys who wanted to show off, although they were surprised, they were much better. You all know each other? As the temporary leader, Chen Hao, when he saw Jing Tiangang and Bailey Lianqing steal his limelight, although he was unhappy, he still suppressed it. He was very clear that if he wanted to convince these guys, without showing enough strength, it was absolutely impossible. However, after seeing the three people's surprised expressions after hearing the bamboo hat girl's words, Chen Hao was a little surprised and asked, Leader Meng Xiao, Miss Meng is one of the leading figures of our Songyuan city's younger generation. Her battle strength is higher than mine. She is 2 streets higher than the two of them. The first king said rather, respectfully, Chen Hao. Fuck. What do you mean she is 2 streets higher than us? Miss Meng, the 3 of us are 3 streets higher than you. Miss Meng, do you want to join the Proud Heavens? I'm not talking about this kind of temporary. If you want to join, I, Jing Tiangang, will raise both hands and feet to support you as the leader. Jing Tiangang did not hesitate to choose a girl over a friend and said, the leader's position is for the capable. Miss Meng's strength is without a doubt. I, Bailey Lianqing, will also support you. Bailey Lianqing also said, hello. I temporarily joined you guys to do this mission. Is that okay? The primal crystal stones don't matter. I want the points to be the same as an official member. Meng Xiao did not even look at the two people who had long been scum in her heart and directly said to Chen Hao, sure, welcome to join. Chen Hao said straightforwardly. With the first king and the other two's words, Chen Hao naturally would not treat this girl poorly in terms of points. With such a genius joining, it could increase the battle results of the proud heavens, and the percentage of points obtained would naturally be much higher. It was a matter of mutual benefit. Thank you. Meng Xiao's small face hidden under the bamboo hat did not have the slightest fluctuation of emotions as she said indifferently. After saying that, she directly took out her guardian token and established a connection with Chen Hao's leader token. Chapter 396. In just a few minutes, under the call of the Wild Wolf Guardian Group, 10 Level 2 Guardian Groups and 20 Level 1 Guardian Groups were gathered. These Guardian Squads all announced the battle achievements and strength of their Guardian Squads, as well as the allocation after temporarily joining their Guardian Squads, and selected lone Guardians. Although the newly established Proud Heavens did not have any battle achievements to speak of, the beautiful and handsome men were all young super geniuses. There was no need to shout at all as many Level 1 lone Guardians like Meng Xiao took the initiative to join. However, no one could enjoy the points treatment of Meng Xiao as an official member. Moreover, they could not join just because they wanted to. Only those who were pleasing to the eye like Chen Hao and the others could join. In a total of more than 10 minutes, the army of 500 people was gathered and met the requirements to eliminate the monsters in Sky Tiger Ancient City. The details of the mission and the information of the participating Guardian groups and members also appeared in everyone's Guardian tokens. Proud Heaven's Guardian Group had a total of 7 Level 1 Guardians. There are about 1 million monsters in Sky Tiger Ancient City. Our mission this time is to eliminate all the monsters and seize Sky Tiger Ancient City. The mission time limit is 10 days. Time is tight. Let's go. The Wild Wolf Guardian Group's leader, Hu Bolong, ordered. The army of 500 people quickly walked toward the mission teleportation array area. Through the teleportation array, everyone arrived at a relay station in the barren theater of operations that was closest to Sky Tiger Ancient City. The relay station was a place for cultivators to rest and resupply in the barren theater of operations. It had a powerful protective barrier. In the relay station, there were large shops that bought all kinds of monster materials, and shops that sold all kinds of special elixirs and equipment. There were also special palaces for cultivators to cultivate in. After everyone entered the relay station, they did not stop. They directly stepped out of the relay station and flew toward Sky Tiger Ancient City that was hundreds of thousands of miles away. Sky Tiger Ancient City was a deserted ancient city. There would often be a certain number of foreign monsters gathered there. When it reached a certain level, it was time for cultivators to start cleaning up. Otherwise, if it was allowed to develop, it would become the territory of powerful monsters. The number of monsters would increase. At that time, the price to pay to eliminate them would be too high. All Guardian groups, listen to my orders. When a dilapidated ancient city that covered an area of 1,000 miles appeared in front of everyone's eyes, Hu Bolong began to give orders. We will join forces and rush into the ancient city. Then we will start the hunt. Captain Hu, isn't this inappropriate? As soon as Hu Bolong finished speaking, the captain of a second-grade Guardian group frowned and said, "What's wrong? This is a level 3 mission, yet the reward is so high. Naturally, it's not that simple. Nearly 1 million demonic beasts have gathered in the city. If we rush into the city directly, it will definitely be very dangerous. I feel that to be on the safe side, we should spread out and start from the outskirts of the city. Provoke, lure, and kill. That way it would be safer." "That's right. However, if that was the case, how could it be completed in 10 days? The mission information had already stated that the strongest monster here was only at the peak of the late-stage Essence Spirit Realm. Most of them were at the early-stage Essence Spirit Realm. What danger would there be? If we rush in, we might be surrounded, but all we have to do is break through and start hunting. The effect would be greatly improved. That was the only way to complete the hunt of 1,000,000 monsters in just 10 days. Alright, I Hu Bolong, do not wish for anyone to raise any more questions. Those who are afraid of death can scram now. Kill them all. Hu Bolong gloomily glanced at the leader of the second-rank Guardian group and said arrogantly, Chi, Chi. Following Hu Bolong's words, the 500 cultivators immediately transformed into streams of light and charged towards the ancient city. The monstrous aura of foreign beasts filled the entire city. As soon as the crowd unleashed their auras, terrifying beastly roars could be heard coming from the city, as countless beasts soared into the sky. Boom, boom. The wild wolf protectors took the lead and led the group. They were like a steel torrent that broke through the dense monsters blocking their path and continued approaching the city. These monsters were only at the lowest level of the primordial spirit realm. Even though they did not fear death, they were still unable to stop the group from advancing. In just over 10 minutes, they rushed into the dilapidated city. Every time a monster was killed, its inner core would be absorbed by the hunter. Although the hunting efficiency was reduced, it was obviously impossible for them to give up. An Essence Soul Realm monster's inner core was rather valuable. Even the materials from the bodies of these monsters were not cheap. However, it would take too much time to gather the materials, so it could only be wasted. Countless monsters also gathered towards the group from all directions. As the monsters' huge bodies moved, the entire city trembled. Spread out quickly. If you need help, remember to send a message. The wild wolf protectors have a clear price. We don't cheat anyone. You should have seen it. Hu Bolong said loudly. Although they were in a cooperative relationship, it was impossible to get the other party to provide unconditional help. Under normal circumstances, anyone or the protectors could ask for help when they were in danger, but they would have to pay a price. Be careful. Chun Hao said to the members of Ao Tian through telepathy. This included Meng Xiao and the other 6 temporary members. We will go straight into the depths of the city. If you can't take it, you can retreat behind us. Chun Hao's soul perception, which was far superior to others, allowed him to clearly sense the distribution of monsters in Sky Tiger Ancient City. It was his first time doing a mission, and it was also his first time being a leader. Naturally, he was a little excited. Let's go. Chun Hao glanced at the sisters and said in a deep voice. After saying that, he took the lead and rushed into the depths of the city. Hiss, hiss. The sisters, First King, and the others were also nearly 1,000 feet away from Chun Hao, keeping abreast of him. Among the 7 temporary members, only Meng Xiao followed without hesitation. The other 6 were weaker and didn't have much courage. They chose to follow behind the group. Puff, puff. Amidst the dense monster attacks, Chun Hao's attacks were clean and neat, but not violent. The sisters, First King, Zhang Rongrong and his wife also displayed amazing combat strength. On the surface, they seemed to be stronger than Chun Hao. In particular, Meng Xiao, who was dressed in black and had taken off her bamboo hat, was surrounded by a natural aura of a superior. Amidst the dense siege of the demon beasts, she seemed to be taking a leisurely stroll. Every attack she launched seemed to be at her fingertips, but the damage she caused was extremely terrifying. No demon beast could withstand even one of her attacks. The other 6 cultivators behind Chun Hao and the others were in a good mood when they saw the terrifying combat strength displayed by Chun Hao and the others. As the saying goes, under the shade of a big tree, they only needed to hunt the lower-level monsters. As long as they successfully completed the task, they would be able to obtain higher points. Leader, your guess is really right. Of course. These guys are all proud and arrogant, but they don't have a brain. With an army of millions of monsters, even we don't dare to go straight in. Just wait for them to ask for help. Save one person. 200,000 high-grade primordial crystal stones each time. Hee. Cough cough, isn't the leader too ruthless? We have already made the price very clear. These guys are not to be offended. Don't forget, there is also a condition that is adjusted according to the individual situation. First King, Bailey Lianqing, Jing Tiangang, and especially Meng Xiao, who joined them temporarily, are all the top geniuses of the top families in Songyuan City. More than 200,000? That Chen Hao can become their leader. Naturally he has his own strengths. As for the others, any one of them is a super genius. We don't want to offend such people. Anyway, we won't have any interactions in the future. The price is set in advance, so it's not like we are cheating them. Maintain the formation, don't waste your strength, and take turns to rest. 10 days. I want to see how long they can last. When Chen Hao and the others chose to charge into the depths of the city, the 20 or so Wild Wolf Guard members who had surrounded the city, and were also charging into the depths of the city, paid attention to Chen Hao and the others. There was a hint of disdain and pride in their eyes as they communicated with each other through voice transmissions. The 10 members of the proud Heaven Guardian group, as well as Meng Xiao who joined them with a purpose, were all paying attention to the others. No one was willing to let the others steal the limelight, so the speed of hunting was more awesome than the other. But these guys were not fools. Everyone kept their bottom line. While hunting, they were crazily recovering themselves. The first king had a tall and mighty figure. He held a 3-zhang long machete in his hand. His moves were wide and domineering, but every slash did not waste any energy. He always paid the smallest price to kill the monsters. Jing Tiangang appeared and disappeared unpredictably. His attacks were incomparably sharp. Bailey Lianqing's attacks were like a gentle breeze and drizzle. They looked extremely gentle, but the crazed monsters strangely fell down in front of him. Zhang Rongrong and Tan Hui, who were wearing red robes, vividly displayed the advantages of being Dao partners. When the two of them worked together, their hunting speed was much faster. Moreover, they attacked and defended together, so the consumption of energy was very small. Gao Dazhuang and Bai Xiaomei, this pair of top-quality husband and wife, were even more powerful. But no matter how you looked at it, there was a problem with their IQ. Because their hunting speed was too fast, on the surface, it looked like they really didn't hold back. Chen Hao was hunting while paying attention to everyone's situation. Only the sisters he was most familiar with, as well as Meng Xiao, who had temporarily joined the proud Heaven Guardian group, surprised him a little. The sisters' battle strength and tacit cooperation were simply amazing. Even compared to the top-quality husband and wife team, Gao Dazhuang and Bai Xiaomei's speed was not inferior. But the two of them were obviously holding back a lot. And Meng Xiao gave Chen Hao a feeling of transcendence. The monsters in front of her were like 3 little children. They couldn't even force her to use 30% of her strength. However, Chen Hao was only a little surprised. This level of battle was not the slightest threat to Chen Hao. Compared to the monster tide in Heavenly Mist City, it was not worth mentioning. What's more, his strength had increased greatly. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 397. It's just SOSO. Xiaomei will definitely be first this time, hehe. Of course. We've only revealed 40% of our strength. Our ability as husband and wife isn't as simple as they think. Zhuang, you're the best, hehe. Gao Dazhuang and Bai Xiaomei looked at everyone's situation and secretly communicated with each other proudly. This temporary leader is abnormal in all aspects, but how can he compare to me in terms of combat experience and endurance? Although he's holding back a lot, his hunting speed is not even 2/3 of mine. Jing Tiangang thought proudly. In short, although Chen Hao's performance was not bad, in their eyes, it was still inferior to them. However, the sisters had no doubts about Chen Hao. They believed that in the end, Chen Hao would shock everyone. Because they had seen Chen Hao's madness in the Beast Tide. A person who was seriously injured to the point of death, but could still persevere in the Beast Tide, what kind of amazing perseverance and endurance would he have? At least, the sisters couldn't imagine it. Moreover, they knew how terrifying Chen Hao's real combat strength was. Similarly, Meng Xiao occasionally looked at Chen Hao with a trace of surprise in her eyes. Chen Hao's performance was ordinary in the eyes of everyone. But in her eyes, it was more relaxed than herself. This was the problem of vision. Only when one's own level reached the same level as Chen Hao could they see the clues. After half an hour, everyone's speed slowed down because of the consumption of their essence, qi, and spirit. The 6 temporary members behind them had no choice but to huddle together. 2 of them rested, 4 of them fought, and took turns to recover. It was only at this time that the crowd, who had more or less suffered some minor injuries and consumption of energy, were surprised to find that Chen Hao was no different from before. There was not even a trace of blood on his clothes. His essence, qi, and spirit were still in full condition. His handsome, angular face did not have the slightest change. His movements were light and easy. Every time he used his sword, it was clean and efficient, harvesting monster cores. Level 3 missions aren't challenging at all. I need to quickly raise the level of the Guardian group. Otherwise, the only thing that can be honed is endurance. Chen Hao thought to himself after sensing everyone's condition. 2 hours later, the group arrived in front of a barren but well-preserved huge palace. Leader, let's occupy this palace and use it as our base. The few of us can't hold on for much longer. Faced with the endless horde of fearless demonic beasts, the 6 disciples who had joined at the last minute had already started taking turns to rest. However, at this moment, they were still too exhausted to continue fighting. One of them took the lead and suggested, "Leader, let's occupy this palace as our base. The few of us can't hold on any longer." "That's right, guild leader. We'll be fighting for many days. If we use this place as our base and rest properly, our battle results will definitely be higher," another person said. Hearing their conversation, First King and the others also looked at Chen Hao. Although Chen Hao was the temporary leader, it was only because of their agreement. At this moment, the real decision was still in the hands of Chen Hao. Of course, the First King and the others agreed with the 2 of them. Although they could still hold on for 4 hours with their strength, it was necessary to choose a base in advance. "No. If you can't hold on any longer, follow behind me. It's necessary to have a base, but not now. The demonic beasts' levels are too low. They're not challenging at all. Let's go deeper." Chen Hao glanced at the group and said in a deep voice. After that he said, "Also First King Jing Tiangang, Bailey Lianqing, Zhang Rongrong Tan Hui, Gao Dazhuang Bai Xiaomei, Lung Ninghuan, Lung Ninghuan, Lung Ninghuan, Lung Ninghu, all of you, maintain your current formation. Without my permission, all of you are not allowed to join forces. The demonic beasts' levels are too low. The only thing that can be honed is their tenacity. Don't just focus on the effect. When we're doing the mission, the first thing we have to consider is how to improve ourselves and not compare the results. That's short-sighted. Appropriately limit your own abilities in certain areas, and hone your own shortcomings in certain areas. That's the most important thing." "Tisk, temporary leader? Do you really think you're the leader? That makes sense. Who's afraid of who?" "All right." First King and the others responded. However, the answers that entered Chen Hao's ears were a mess. Although they felt that Chen Hao's words made sense, they were not convinced by Chen Hao's education style of preaching. Of course, Chen Hao did not want them to be convinced. As long as they knew what he meant, it was enough. Sure enough, although they were not convinced, there was a huge change in the battle that followed. Other than Gao Dazhuang and Bai Xiaomei, the couple, everyone's state of mind did not compare the speed of the demonic beasts. The other 6 people quickly approached Chen Hao's back to seek shelter. There was no other way. They really could not hold on any longer. They were surprised by the strength of Chen Hao and the others. However, they were a little uneasy. They were worried that the arrogance of Chen Hao and the others would cause them to pay with their lives. However, at this point there was no way out. After 4 hours, even First King and the others were panting. It was obvious that they had used up a lot of energy. After 6 hours, the surrounding demonic beasts had become middle stage incarnation realm. The demonic beasts' attacks had also become stronger. Bailey Lianqing was sweating profusely. His whole body was covered in blood. It was obvious that he had reached his limit. His attack speed, reaction, and spirit were obviously much weaker. However, the pride in his heart made him unwilling to be the first to admit defeat. First King's huge body was also in a situation where he was unable to cope with the attacks. However, Jing Tiangang, who recovered at an astonishing speed, was better than the other two. The Lung sisters and the husband and wife team had already started to take turns as the main attacker. Their performance was better than the three commanders without an army. Meng Xiao, the girl who made first king, and the other two willingly admit defeat. Although she had not reached her limit, her empress arrogant face was also dripping with sweat. It was precisely because of this that the way everyone looked at Chun Hao had imperceptibly changed a little. After 2 hours, Chun Hao had already shouldered the responsibility of protecting the 6 temporary members. Although he only occasionally helped the 6 to deal with situations that they could not deal with, there was no doubt that those situations would consume a lot of energy. However, after 6 hours, Chun Hao's face had become colder. There was not even a trace of sweat on his face. What was even more shocking was that there was not even a trace of blood on his body. What did this mean? It meant that not only was Chun Hao not injured, even the blood of the demonic beasts that burst out when he killed them was blocked outside of his body. It had to be said that this was a waste of energy to act tough. But now, even though they knew that Chun Hao was acting tough, Jing Tiangang and the others had no choice but to accept it. Fuck. Lion, how long can you last? I can last for at most an hour. Bailey Lianqing glanced at Jing Tiangang and First King. He chose First King and transmitted his voice. It could not be helped. Jing Tiangong's endurance was obviously stronger than First King's. It was not easy to trick him. Therefore, choosing First King, who was in a better condition than him, had a higher chance of success. As long as First King was the first to choose a base to rest, he would be able to save his face. I don't know. Don't bother me. First King was the first to come in contact with Chun Hao. Compared to Bailey Lianqing and Jing Tiangang, he trusted Chun Hao more. Of course, the main reason was that he was from the Flaming Lion clan. Ordinary beast blood flowed in his body. His instincts were much stronger than humans. Therefore, at this moment, he was completely immersed in the battle training. How could he have the time to care about Bailey Lianqing? Cough cough. If this goes on, someone will die. I can last for 2 hours at most. Looking at you, you can last for at most 15 minutes before you die. You have to cherish your life, Lion. Get lost. You're the one who has 15 minutes, right? Don't drag me down with you. Hearing Bailey Lianqing's words, how could First King not know what this guy meant? Fuck. I want to compete with you. Bailey Lianqing was angered by First King's words. After he finished speaking, he quickly immersed himself in the battle. Gather towards me and form a battle formation. Finally, when everyone, including Meng Xiao, was injured, Bailey Lianqing, First King, Jing Tiangang and the others were covered in blood, and seemed to have entered a state of madness. Chun Hao knew that he could not continue to fight. In his heart he admired these guys' ruthlessness. It was obvious that they had exceeded their limits. However, none of them admitted defeat. They would rather be injured than cry out. Therefore, at this moment, Chun Hao could only give the order. Otherwise, if this were to continue, it was likely that someone would kick the bucket. Ah, someone can't do it? That's good, that's good. Even though I'm completely fine. Bailey Lianqing heard Chun Hao's command, and it was as if he had heard heavenly music. He used all of his strength to quickly approach Chun Hao, and his mouth boasted shamelessly. You're the first to die. What are you bragging about? First King relaxed and quickly approached Chun Hao. At the same time, he said to Bailey Lianqing with disdain. What do you mean bragging? It's just the truth. Really? Since it's like this, you can continue to fight outside the battle formation. First King Jing Tiangang, Zhang Rongrong, Tan Hui, Lung Ninghuan, Lung Ninghuan, Lung Ninghuan, Lung Ninghu. The 6 of you first adjust yourselves. Chun Hao stared at Bailey Lianqing and ordered without any hesitation. Continue to go deeper. Cough cough. Leader, I don't want to be injured too badly. That I'll adjust myself first. Whoosh. Bailey Lianqing touched his fat face. His face was covered in blood. He shrunk his neck and rolled like a tortoise. Only then did he manage to avoid the monster's attack. He entered the battle formation without any face. He panted heavily and stuffed a large amount of healing pills into his mouth. Chapter 398. Miss Meng, Gao Dazhuang by Xiaomei, you guys guard the left and right sides. I'll be in charge of the front. The rest of you will take turns. Let's go. Chen Hao ignored Bailey Lianqing and ordered. The 6 of them had been following behind Chen Hao for a long time. Compared to Bailey Lianqing and the others, they were in a better situation. They could form a small battle formation with Chen Hao, Meng Xiao and Gao Dazhuang. Moreover, after leaving the safety of the 6 of them to Meng Xiao, Gao Dazhuang and Bai Xiaomei, Chen Hao's pressure was reduced by half. He was fully focused on charging forward. This made everyone's speed much faster than when they were alone. Bailey Lianqing, First King and the sisters were under the protection of the battle formation. They were advancing with the battle formation, while recovering their strength. After a few minutes, an intact palace appeared in front of everyone's eyes once again. In everyone's eyes, this palace was undoubtedly the best place to set up a base. However, Chen Hao's words shattered everyone's fantasies. Continue to go deeper. First King, you guys switch with the 6 of them every once in a while. When there's danger, take the initiative. When there's no other way, shrink the battle formation. Chen Hao said coldly as he hunted madly. His not-so-tall figure had become a tireless machine in everyone's eyes. Moreover, he was even more ferocious than before. Every slash of his sword could reap the life of a monster. After hearing Chen Hao's words, Gao Dazhuang and Bai Xiaomei opened their mouths to speak. However, they held themselves back. Even Meng Xiao took a deep breath at this moment. Obviously, they did not expect Chen Hao to be so crazy. The Wild Wolf Guardian group, who had been paying attention to Chen Hao and the others, were so shocked that their eyeballs almost fell out. Even they did not expect Chen Hao and the others to be so powerful. They were a 3rd-grade Guardian group, and their overall realm was much higher than Chen Hao and the others. Moreover, they had rich mission experience. However, they were overshadowed by Chen Hao and the others. Not only were they not as fast as Chen Hao and the others when it came to hunting and advancing, they could not even last as long as they did. This was even after they had formed a battle formation early in the morning. 6 hours later, Chen Hao and the others had already disappeared from their sight. However, the leader of Wild Wolf Guards, Hu Bolong, activated the spirit communication mirror that only a commander could possess and established a connection with Chen Hao. He would occasionally check on the situation of Chen Hao and the others, and the more he observed, the more shocked he became. Especially Chen Hao, Meng Xiao and Gao Dazhuang, this pair of Dao companions. Although their combat strength was not strong, and was even much weaker compared to them, the 4 of them seemed to have an inexhaustible supply of true qi, and did not rest for even a moment. Too strong. This group of guys is indeed a collection of monsters. If this goes on, I'm afraid our record will not be as high as theirs. Meng Xiao is one of the leading figures of Songyuan City. It's understandable that she has such abnormal physical strength. That pair of Dao companions who make people want to vomit are obviously cultivating a kind of strange cultivation method that allows them to persist until now. But that guy called Chen Hao is too exaggerated. Yes, this kid is really not simple. It's been more than 3 months. You see, not only has his attacks not weakened, but they have become stronger and stronger. What's amazing is that he hasn't suffered a single injury. Mother, is he still human? Is he stronger than Meng Xiao? How is that possible? He is only strong in endurance and the use of strength. In a real decisive battle, he can't be Meng Xiao's opponent. When Meng Xiao was in the early stage of Essence Soul, she had the strength to challenge the late stage of Essence Soul. Now she has stepped into the middle stage of Essence Soul. Except for you, leader, none of us are her opponent. One of the late-stage Essence Soul experts said. In fact, what he wanted to say was that even the leader, Hu Bolong, was not Meng Xiao's opponent. It's just that he didn't dare to say it because of Hu Bolong's face. It's hard to say. This guy, the more I look at him, the more dangerous he is. Think about it, among the First King, Bailey Lianqing, Jing Tiangang and the others, which one of them is not a monstrous super genius? But he can actually become the leader. What does this mean? This guy is definitely not simple. Look at his current appearance. Where does it look like he has experienced more than 6 hours of battle? If I'm not wrong, his combat strength is not worse than Meng Xiao. Another person said. It seems that we can't make money from them. This group of guys is too abnormal. Work harder for me. If they surpass us, it will be too shameful, Hu Bolong said loudly. At this point, they did not even dare to think about using despicable means to flirt with a beauty. In fact, when Meng Xiao joined Proud Heaven, they had already given up on the idea. Now they did not even dare to think about it. Puff puff puff. 10 hours later, everyone, including Chen Hao, could no longer relax. Late-stage primordial spirit realm monsters began to appear around them. Moreover, there were about 10 of them at a time. Their attacks were so powerful that it was unbearable to look at. Their injuries could no longer be described as light injuries. Even Chen Hao vomited blood several times, and his body was covered in wounds of various sizes. Since he was leading the charge, the attacks he received were far more powerful than the others. However, what made everyone numb was that Chen Hao did not give the order to stop advancing, nor did he have the slightest intention of choosing a base. Although Gao Dazhuang and Bai Xiaomei were extremely reluctant, they could not hold on for an hour and hid in the battle formation to recover. Meng Xiao, who was publicly acknowledged as the strongest in terms of combat strength, had also reluctantly admitted defeat more than 10 minutes ago. Of the 17 people in the team, only Chen Hao had persevered until now. Moreover, he did not have the slightest intention of resting. Chen Hao was challenging everyone's limits, and at the same time, he was also challenging his own limits. The reason why he was doing this was naturally to increase the strength of all the members of Proud Heaven. Since he had formed Proud Heaven with everyone, he had acknowledged the existence of all his brothers and sisters. Of course, Chen Hao also had the mentality of intimidating everyone. These people were arrogant and unruly in their bones. If he wanted to establish his prestige, he had to rely on his true strength to completely convince them. Otherwise, Proud Heaven would forever be a sheet of loose sand. It would be impossible for it to truly become strong. In such a situation, if it had been Chen Hao in his previous life, he would have suppressed them with iron and blood. Not convinced? If not, he would beat them until they were convinced. However, Chen Hao now did not want subordinates who feared and obeyed his orders. Instead, he wanted brothers and sisters who could communicate and treat each other peacefully. Therefore, his methods were much gentler. Not only did he have to use his own strength to convince these guys, he also had to convince them with his virtue. Of course, Chen Hao's virtue was not the kind of virtue that appeared to be sanctimonious. Can't you all go on? After another hour, Chen Hao looked at the shrinking battle formation that had almost completely gathered behind him. His face was already covered in blood. He could no longer care about acting tough and asked aloud. I can't. I really can't. You can still speak, why can't you? A man can't say no. Yes, a woman can't either. Continue to go deeper. From now on, I won't help you solve your crisis. If I die, I will burn more paper money with you. No way. Hearing Chen Hao's words, Bailey Lianqing and the rest were instantly terrified. Not helping? What did that mean? At this point, almost all the monsters around them were in the late stage of the primordial soul realm. Any big move would put their lives in danger. Moreover, even if they took turns to rest, they could not recover at all. Almost everyone was on the verge of collapse. Brother Hao, we really can't hold on any longer. Lung Ningla said as she endured the pain all over her body. It's okay, Lulu. If you and Huan Huan die, I will burn twice the amount of paper money with you. I guarantee that you will all be rich after you die, Chen Hao said mercilessly. If you want to live, you have to use your own strength. Do you see that tall palace in front? Our base will be there. Whether you can hold on until it is up to you. Fuck. That's at least 10 miles. Even the first king felt a little hopeless when he saw the palace. You 7 temporary members are not included in this list. Just do what you can. If you can't hold on, come to my side. As for the rest of you, don't talk nonsense. A person's potential is limitless. It depends on whether you can break through your own limits. Among these low-level monsters, this is the only thing that can be trained. If you can't even hold on until this, how are you qualified to fight with me for the position of the leader? You don't even deserve to be a member of Proud Heaven. If you don't die, then follow me to the end. Chen Hao didn't even look at the crowd as he madly swung his sword and spoke arrogantly. The disdain and provocation in his words were absolutely undisguised. However, the first king and the others were obviously provoked by Chen Hao's words. They understood what Chen Hao meant. Each of them took a deep breath and did not say anything else. The more dangerous the situation is, the more you have to stay calm. Sometimes you have to pay the appropriate price. As long as it's not fatal, it's right. Under such circumstances, the most important thing is to consume the least amount of energy, even if you have to use your physical body to exchange for it. There is still a lot of room for improvement. I don't expect you to be as close as Huan Huan and Lei Lei. I don't expect you to be as close as Gao Dazhuang and Bai Xiaomei. But at the very least, you can't have too many flaws. This is the potential that we must have when we are fighting as a team. Bailey Lianqing, if you had rushed up to block the attack for Jing Tiangang, you would only have suffered a little more injury. Jing Tiangang would not have used such an energy-consuming move at this time. It would be a loss for you, but for the team, it would be to preserve their strength. A team needs individual dedication and the spirit of sacrifice. I don't expect you to sacrifice yourselves, but you must do your dedication. No one knew how they persevered until they reached the tall palace. However, Chen Hao's words rang in their ears from time to time, making them feel frightened. First, Chen Hao's words made them feel frightened. There was no doubt that every word was guidance for them. Secondly, Chen Hao had not rested since the beginning. Furthermore, at this moment, he was facing an attack that was even more terrifying than theirs. Although he was leading the charge, Chen Hao, who only showed his back to them, seemed to have seen every single one of their movements clearly. He knew their situation like the back of his palm. Thirdly, everyone was able to discern that the injuries Chen Hao suffered at this moment were absolutely more severe than theirs. His every move was still without the slightest disorder, and he was always able to use the smallest price in exchange for the greatest effect. Chapter 399. After stepping into the palace that had long since opened its doors, a huge demonic beast with a human face and a beast body was coiled up in the middle of the palace hall. Its black fur stood up like thick steel needles, and its scarlet eyes contained monstrous fury as it stared disdainfully at Chen Hao and the others. It was a commander monster at the peak of the late-stage primordial soul realm. Seeing this monster, even Meng Xiao, who was the strongest among them, felt her heart skip a beat. No one had expected such a terrifying existence to reside in the palace. The peak of the late-stage primordial soul realm was the most powerful monster in Sky Tiger Ancient City, according to the mission description. It was equivalent to a boss monster. Even if they were in their peak condition, they would have to put in a lot of effort. At this moment, all of them were almost exhausted and on the verge of collapse. How could they fight against it? This was after taking into account everyone's abnormal strength. In fact, if other level 1 and level 2 guardian groups had encountered this monster, they would have run away in fear. Of course, even if they wanted to retreat, the most important thing was that they were already at the point of exhaustion. If they retreated, although they could avoid this powerful monster, they would have to face the attacks of countless other monsters. It could be said that it was difficult to advance or retreat. What should we do? Everyone looked at Chen Hao, who was bearing the brunt of the attack. Leave this big guy to me. You guys guard the door, and don't let other monsters in. Chen Hao took a deep breath and said. Even he did not expect to encounter such a situation. There were monsters in the palace for sure, but they had not reached the city center yet. How could they have encountered a monster at the peak of the late-stage primordial soul realm? Shameless boasting. How dare you barge into my palace? All of you must die. A mere level 1 guardian group dares to come. Ha ha ha. What shocked everyone was that the monster with a human face and a beast body could actually speak the human language. It was fine if it could speak the human language. After all, monsters with high cultivation could learn the human language as long as they had a certain amount of intelligence. This was especially true for a monster with a commander status. Its intelligence was definitely not inferior to a human's. What truly shocked everyone was the monster's words. Between its words, everyone knew that the monster could not only speak human language, but also knew the situation of the guardian group. If this king didn't guess wrongly, you should have received a level 3 group mission, right? TSKTA. I didn't expect you to be so smart. Not bad, it's a level 3 mission. How about it? After hearing Monster's words, Chen Hao, who had been preparing to attack, halted his steps. He quickly recovered his strength as he spoke. At the same time, he communicated with the mysterious existence and began to refine the spiritual spring to replenish himself. How is it? Very soon, this mission will be upgraded to level 4. But by then, we will have already left. The only things that can be hunted for you are these mutated puppets. Kikik. Do you want to take this opportunity to recover? You won't have a chance, the monster said arrogantly. At the same time, there was a loud bang and its huge body immediately emitted a terrifying pressure. It looked at Chen Hao and the others as if they were prey. It opened its blood-red mouth and cruelly licked its scarlet tongue. With a sinister smile, it approached Chen Hao and the others. With every step he took, the entire palace shook. Looking at everyone's expressions, it enjoyed this feeling very much. Captain Chen, let's retreat. We can't fight against this monster, Meng Xiao said with a solemn expression. Boss, let's retreat. The first king and the others also said. Everyone said fearfully as they defended against the demonic beasts outside the door. Now they were powerless. Even if they retreated, they needed Chen Hao to be the vanguard. And no matter who it was, they all felt the aura of death. The monster's words and the aura it emitted clearly told everyone that it was not a simple monster at the peak of the late Essence Soul stage. Not only did it have amazing intelligence, but it was also an expert from an extraterrestrial race. The layout of the Sky Tiger Ancient City was very likely to be a danger zone specially designed to deal with the Guardians. Guard the door. What made everyone's expressions even more embarrassed was that Chen Hao said coldly. At this time, even Meng Xiao frowned slightly. She knew very well that everyone was in such a desperate situation because of Chen Hao's persistence. She was the same as the first king and the others. She did not blame Chen Hao. After all, Chen Hao was also trying to train everyone. But in this situation, what was the point of persisting? That would be courting death. If they escaped now, at least a few of them could survive. If they did not escape, they would only be wiped out. Whether to escape or not, the decision was actually completely entrusted to Chen Hao. Because if they escaped, Chen Hao was the main force. Only then would they have a chance to rush out. Just when everyone wanted to persuade him, Chen Hao moved. Chen Hao, who was already heavily injured, actually erupted with a peerlessly fierce and powerful aura at this moment. True essence that was dense and pure to the point it caused everyone to feel inconceivable surged out from Chen Hao's body. At the same time, a peerlessly fierce sword insight that was filled with a destructive aura rose up. In the huge palace, the energy of heaven and earth set off gusts of wind in an instant. How is this possible? The first king and the others, Meng Xiao, and the 6 temporary members who were a little confused, all stared in horror. No one thought that Chen Hao could still burst out with such a terrifying aura under such circumstances. This aura, including Meng Xiao, was terrifying. This was definitely not because of their poor state. Even if they were in their peak state, they would be equally surprised. The legendary destruction sword Dao. Pure true essence beyond everyone's understanding. There was also a disdainful look that made people feel a terrifying pressure. Only the sisters weren't too shocked, because they were the only ones who knew Chen Hao's true strength. At this moment, they were temporarily resting. Their beautiful eyes were filled with a strange light as they stared at Chen Hao's figure that wasn't very tall, but had an indomitable spirit. Their hearts trembled. The monster, who was laughing sinisterly, suddenly stopped laughing as if its neck had been strangled. A look of surprise flashed in its scarlet eyes as it stared at Chen Hao, whose aura had suddenly become countless times stronger, and made it feel a sense of danger. Chen Hao's aura was only at the peak of the early stage primordial soul realm, but at this moment, there was no trace of it at all. Having hunted countless guardian geniuses, it could judge from Chen Hao's aura that Chen Hao definitely had the strength to fight against an expert at the peak of the late-stage primordial soul realm. You are so strong? Good. This is interesting. After this king devours you, this king will definitely become stronger. Go to hell. Roar! Boom! The monster with the face of a human and the body of a beast could not be bothered to enjoy the pleasure of threatening a human. With a loud roar, its huge body rushed toward Chen Hao like a mountain. Mysterious and strange runes gushed out from its body. Burn my life! What shocked Meng Xiao and the others, and what worried the sisters was that at this moment, Chen Hao's clear and cold voice had actually spoken such a sentence. With the appearance of this sentence, Chen Hao's aura once again soared to a terrifying level. The first king and the others all felt their blood boiling. Their little universe had completely exploded because of Chen Hao's short sentence. In their hearts, everyone clearly understood what these words meant. Burning of life. Although they did not know what kind of secret technique this was, they knew that it was a secret technique that used one's lifespan as the price. It was no wonder that Chen Hao, who was also severely injured, could suddenly become so strong. What did he do? For everyone's lives. For his brothers and sisters, for them, he did not hesitate to burn his life. Everyone was so touched that they were in a mess. Even Gao Dazhuang and Bai Xiaomei, who were a pair of supreme-grade Dao companions, were stunned as they stared at Chen Hao. Chi. Boom. Boom. 1 sword, 2 swords, 3 swords, 4 swords, 5 swords, 6 swords. Anyone could see that Chen Hao's incomparably sharp sword light, which seemed to condense all the energy in his body into a single point, was definitely Chen Hao's strongest move. But at this moment, Chen Hao actually used his ultimate move consecutively, 6 consecutive sword strikes. No one could do this. At least, in everyone's knowledge, no one could unleash such a powerful secret technique consecutively, and at such a fast speed. Seeing Chen Hao's energy being sucked out crazily, not to mention the sisters, Tan Hui, Bai Xiaomei, Meng Xiao, and the other women, even the first king, Jing Tiangang Gao Dazhuang, and the other men had tears in their eyes. Boss! At this moment, everyone fell into madness and sluggishness. While desperately blocking the monsters that wanted to rush into the palace, they stared at Chen Hao. They did not know how badly Chen Hao would be injured after this move. They did not even know if Chen Hao could survive. However, at this moment, no one had any thoughts of competing with Chen Hao for the position of boss. They also acknowledged Chen Hao's position in their hearts. Why? Because everyone knew that if Chen Hao abandoned them and fled by himself at this moment, then he would definitely be able to survive. However, he chose to use the secret technique of burning his life force for everyone. Rumble. The terrifying sword light that contained the destruction sword Dao collided with the monster with a human face and a beast's body. A terrifying explosion almost destroyed the huge palace. Roar. Accompanied by the monster's fearful and mournful screams, this lasted for a full half a minute. Then, the palace that contained the powerful restriction finally stopped trembling. Brother Hao. The sisters immediately rushed toward Chen Hao, who had collapsed to the ground. Their beautiful little faces were filled with endless worry and tears. They knew that Chen Hao was powerful, but they did not expect Chen Hao to use the secret technique of burning his life force. Boss. The first king and the others also rushed toward Chen Hao. They did not even care about guarding the door. Fortunately, the temporary members and Meng Xiao, who had maintained a trace of rationality, took the lead at this moment and desperately guarded the door. No one reminded the first king and the others because they could not bear to. Chapter 400. Why are you so excited? Guard the door well. I've only burned a few decades of my lifespan. I won't die. When the beautiful sisters rushed to Chen Hao's side, to everyone's surprise, Chen Hao, who seemed to have collapsed and could no longer sense any energy fluctuations, stared at everyone and ordered, "Yes, yes." After a short silence, everyone responded excitedly. Looking at everyone's expressions, Chen Hao's face did not change at all, but he smiled wretchedly in his heart. Burning his lifespan? Not to mention that he did not know the secret technique. Even if he did, there was no need to use it. His original intention was to hide his true strength. After all, other than the members of Proud Heaven, there were still 7 temporary members present. However, he did not expect that his words to fool everyone would make them so touched that they became muddle-headed and successfully convinced them with virtue. Chen Hao naturally would not explain. It was not to deceive everyone's feelings. In fact, if he was really in a desperate situation, he would really use the secret technique of burning his lifespan. If that was the only way to save everyone's lives, he would also not hesitate, because he was the one who forced everyone to this step. Then as the leader, he had to be responsible for everyone. There was no secret technique of burning his lifespan, but because of Chen Hao, the first king, Jing Tiangang, Bailey Lianqing, and the others all seemed to be burning their lifespan and broke through their limits that were on the verge of collapse. Other than Chen Hao, who entered a deep state of recovery and cultivation, the other 16 people were divided into 3 groups and took turns to resist the tide of monsters outside the door. The killing did not stop for a moment. Chen Hao and the others did not know that when they encountered the peak of the late stage of the primordial soul stage, the leader of the Wild Wolf Guardian group and the others were using the psychic mirror to observe Chen Hao. The power that Chen Hao displayed by burning his lifespan completely shocked the Wild Wolf Guardian group. No one would have thought that Chen Hao was so strong. Even if he used the secret technique of burning his lifespan, it was still too terrifying. In particular, Chen Hao's final words to the sisters, the first king, and the others clearly told them that he had burned his lifespan but had not yet reached the point of death. Hu Bolong was certain that if he were to face that terrifying sword light and the fact that it was a chain attack, he would be blasted into smithereens. Motherfucker, it's best to stay as far away from a fugitive as possible. Don't offend him no matter what. This kid's life aura is only in his early 20s, but he's already at the pinnacle of the early primordial spirit realm. Although a few decades of lifespan is a heavy price for him to pay, it shouldn't be a problem for him to use it a few times. Moreover, as his cultivation increases, his lifespan will also increase. That's right. It was certain that such a monstrous genius would advance to the blessed realm, and he might not even need many years to do so. Those in the blessed realm have a lifespan of 1,000 years. Alright, let's be careful. This mission is obviously a trap set up by the extraterrestrial monsters. There were probably quite a few monsters at the peak of the late stage of the incarnation realm. Otherwise, the monster would not have said that this mission required him to be promoted to level 4. I'm afraid it won't be that easy to complete the mission. It's more important to stay alive. Kill as many as you can. Yes. After a full 6 hours, Chen Hao finally heaved a long sigh of relief. His entire body was full of energy. However, the wounds on his body were still there. This time, he had deliberately blocked the automatic recovery function of the immortal bloodline. Moreover, he had deliberately slowed down the speed at which he refined the primordial crystal stones. However, even with that being the case, to be able to recover in 6 hours, it was still a very abnormal speed for the crowd. Only the 2 beautiful sisters noticed something. They knew how fast Chen Hao was refining the primordial crystal stones. However, the 2 beautiful sisters would not say anything. I'll guard the door. All of you, do your best to recover now. After Chen Hao woke up, he did not waste any time and said directly, "You alone? Don't worry, I'm almost fully recovered." As Chen Hao spoke, he walked to the door and waved his sword to welcome them. The door, which was 100 feet wide, was immediately enveloped by his terrifying sword essence. Hurry up, when you're almost fully recovered, we'll split into 3 groups. Yes. Seeing Chen Hao's performance, everyone no longer hesitated. One by one, they sat cross-legged and entered a state of full recovery. After half an hour, Bailey Lianqing, Jing Tiangang, Gao Dazhuang, Bai Xiaomei, Zhang Rongrong, Tan Hui. The 6 of you will be the first group. Immediately go out of the palace and hunt. When you can't hold on anymore, come back. Still want to go out? Of course. The 17 of us will be divided into 3 groups. 1 group will rest, 1 group will guard the door, and 1 group will go out to gain experience. You guys go first. Cough cough. Okay. Everyone's expression changed slightly, but their eyes shone with a touch of determination as they replied. Immediately, Bailey Lianqing and the other 5 rushed out of the palace. Of course, everyone understood Chen Hao's meaning. Obviously, this was another challenge to their limits. Originally, in this base, guarding the door and recovering had already reached the point of maintaining a balance. However, Chen Hao was obviously not satisfied with this kind of meaningless killing. After splitting into 3 groups, The number of people resting and guarding the door decreased. Naturally, the danger increased, but the hunting speed was the same as when there were more people. The pair that stepped out of the palace to hunt would naturally face more dangerous situations. But the overall result would certainly improve a lot. There was no doubt about this. Now let's split into the next group. Miss Ming, your strength is relatively strong. The 6 of them will be in the same group as you, okay? After the 6 people left, Chen Hao looked at Meng Xiao and asked with a trace of inquiring tone. Meng Xiao's strength was very strong. Chen Hao could feel it. Moreover, the other party was not an official member of Proud Heaven, so he could not give orders like he did to First King and the others. Okay. Meng Xiao slightly frowned, but still said decisively, now you should focus on recovering. When the first group comes back, it will be time for you to go out. Miss Meng, when the 6 of them can't do it, you can send them back and continue to stay outside. When the time comes to guard the door, the strength of the 6 of them should be enough. Okay. Meng Xiao looked at Chen Hao with a trace of gratitude in her eyes. The trace of dissatisfaction in her heart also disappeared. After all, with her strength, it was a bit of a loss to take 6 people who were much weaker than her. But now, Chen Hao's arrangement had eliminated this point. First King, Huan Lele, the 4 of us will be the third group. When you are almost done, come and replace me for a while. The 4 of us need to wait for the second group to come back, and the first group to guard the door. Then we can go out. Yes. In less than 2 hours, Bailey Lianqing, Jing Tiangang, and the other 5 people, one by one, returned to the palace with all their strength. Their recovery time was short, and they had not recovered to their peak state. It was quite rare for them to be able to persist for almost 2 hours in the middle and late primordial spirit realm monster group. After the 6 people came back, they directly entered the palace and began to recover with all their strength. Meng Xiao, who had almost fully recovered, rushed out of the palace under the leadership of Meng Xiao. Chen Hao, First King, and the sisters took turns to guard the door, letting Bailey Lianqing and the other 5 people recover with all their strength. 2 hours later, Meng Xiao returned to the palace with 6 temporary members with weaker strength. I'll go with you? Meng Xiao did not step into the palace, but at the door, hunting monsters while looking at Chen Hao and asking. At this moment, it was Bailey Lianqing and the other 5 people's turn to guard the door, and it was time for Chen Hao and the other 3 to go out to hunt. Okay. You estimate your own situation and come back in advance when you can't hold on, Chen Hao said. Okay. The 3 groups cycled and killed crazily. Time passed day by day. Meng Xiao's strength was indeed not comparable to First King and the others. After all, Meng Xiao was already an expert at the middle stage of the primordial spirit realm, while First King and the others were only at the early stage of the primordial spirit realm. In terms of realm, they were inferior, but the most abnormal was still Chen Hao. Although First King and the sisters were in the same group, in fact, in the beginning he guarded the door with the 3 of them. Later, they took turns to guard the door twice, and he only came back once. It was almost completely the responsibility of guarding the door to First King and the sisters. However, with the strength of First King and the sisters, even if they took turns to guard the door, it was enough. No one had any objection to Chen Hao's decision. After all, Chen Hao's desperate hunting outside had a huge effect on improving the team's record. Moreover, during several opportunities, Chen Hao deliberately invited Meng Xiao, and the 2 of them stepped out in peak condition. Out of curiosity, Bailey Lianqing and the others opened the psychic mirror that only Proud Heavens members had to observe why Chen Hao invited Meng Xiao. They were shocked when they saw the 2 of them walking into the huge palace and provoking the commander monsters at the peak of the late stage of the Essence Soul realm. Of course, Chen Hao and Meng Xiao teamed up, so they naturally would not use life ignition. It was dangerous, but they succeeded in killing the powerful monsters every time. As time passed, when the number of monsters became fewer and fewer, their base was adjusted several times and kept approaching the core. The Wild Wolf Guardian group, who originally felt that there was no hope of completing the mission, carefully wanted to move towards the core, but found that they did not even encounter a commander monster at the peak of the late stage of the Essence Soul realm. This made their confidence soar. On the 8th day, They no longer needed to take turns to guard because the number of monsters had become very small, and they needed to snatch monsters. The so-called snatch monsters inevitably led to conflicts between guardian groups, but the strength of Proud Heaven's guardian group was so strong that even the Wild Wolf guardian group did not dare to compete with them. Who else would dare? However, the other guardian groups did not have the authority of the Wild Wolf guardian group's leader, so they did not know who was the most abnormal in Proud Heaven's guardian group. They were afraid of Meng Xiao, one of the leading figures of the younger generation in Songyuan City, as well as First King, Jing Tiangang, and Bailey Liancheng. Of course, the aura of the other members of Proud Heaven also made them afraid. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 401. On the 9th day, there were no longer any traces of monsters in the entire Sky Tiger Ancient City. Hu Bolong received the mission notification, and finally announced the completion of the Sky Tiger Ancient City mission. 500 people came, but only 400 or so returned. Dozens of guardians died in the mission. Compared to ordinary missions, this death rate was quite high. Of course, if not for Chun Hao and the others, more people would have died, and it would have been impossible to complete the mission. Boss, do you think our results will be surpassed by theirs? If we're overtaken, we'll lose a lot of face. A cultivator in the Wild Wolf Guardian group said as the 400 people returned to Songyuan City from the relay station. We have more than 20 people, and they only have 17. 6 of them are very weak. Their overall results will definitely not surpass ours. Hu Bolong said in a low voice. Although he said so, he did not have any confidence in his heart. Moreover, in terms of individual results, he was destined to lose face. As the leader of a third-grade guardian group, his realm and strength should undoubtedly obtain the highest individual results. However, he already knew that he had no hope when he encountered a monster like Chun Hao. Now the only thing he could fantasize about was the team's overall results. In that case, he could still save some face. However, when everyone handed in their recording devices and Guardian Group tokens to the old man at the Alliance's mission window, a huge sign beside the window showed the results of the mission and the distribution of the rewards. Not only did Hu Bolong and the others widen their eyes, but even the old man at the window was staring. How is this possible? Oh my God! Isn't this too exaggerated? Looking at the results on the huge sign, everyone rubbed their eyes in disbelief, thinking that they had seen wrongly. After confirming that there was no mistake, they all exclaimed in surprise. No one had thought that Aotian would be so strong. Aotian, who was only a first-grade guardian group, was actually at the top of the list in terms of overall results. Moreover, his points were twice that of the second-ranked Wild Wolf Guardian group. What did this mean? One had to know that the Wild Wolf Guardian group was the commander of this mission, and was also the only third-grade guardian group. They had an absolute advantage in terms of realm and numbers. However, their results were only half of Aotian's. It was not that the Wild Wolf Guardian group was too weak, but that Aotian's guardian group was too strong. Even more shocking was the fact that Captain Chun Hao's personal battle record actually accounted for a fifth of Proud Heaven's total battle record. Next was the powerful Meng Xiao. Both of them were much stronger than the others. 30 monsters at the peak of the late-stage Essence Soul Realm, and at the commander level of the Outer Realm. A total of 1.2 million monsters at the Essence Soul Realm and above. This mission had already reached the 4th level. Moreover, it was a danger zone specially created by the extraterrestrial races. This is a mistake on the part of our scouts. Fortunately, Proud Heaven's guardians had displayed astonishing strength. Otherwise, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Cough cough. Wait a moment. Old man will report this to the president. He should give you some extra rewards. After the old man finished speaking, he disappeared from the room, leaving everyone looking at each other in dismay. Soon after, everyone's gazes turned towards Chun Hao and the others. Captain Chun, many thanks to Proud Heaven. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid we wouldn't have been able to return. Yes, thank you very much. He didn't expect this mission to be so dangerous. 30 monsters at the peak of the late-stage Essence Soul realm, and all of them at the commander level. Captain Chen, is Proud Heaven recruiting? I want to join. For a moment, everyone was calling out to Chen Hao and the other members of Proud Heaven. There were even a few lone guardians who wanted to join Proud Heaven. However, Chen Hao didn't need to say anything. Bailey Lianqing and the others refused without hesitation. Even the 6 temporary members who had joined Proud Heaven for this mission weren't qualified. This was the principle that Chen Hao, the first king, and the others had to abide by when they established Proud Heaven. Only true elites were qualified to join Proud Heaven. Moreover, the prerequisite was that their character was guaranteed. Meng Xiao was definitely qualified. However, Meng Xiao didn't take the initiative to become a member of Proud Heaven. She joined Proud Heaven temporarily, because she wanted to understand Proud Heaven's situation. In this mission, although Chen Hao and the others had shown great strength, and Chen Hao's performance had even shocked her, when she first joined, she said that she would only join temporarily. If she took the initiative to join Proud Heaven at this time, how embarrassing would that be? She believed that with her performance, Chen Hao would invite her. Even if Chen Hao didn't invite her, as long as Bailey Lianqing, Jing Tiangang, and the others showed some interest and said something like when they first met, she would push the boat with the current and become a member of Proud Heaven. After all, among the 30 Lord-level monsters at the peak of the late-stage Essence Soul realm, except for the first one that Chen Hao had burned his life, the rest were killed by her and Chen Hao together. Moreover, their efforts were no less than that of Chen Hao's. In terms of real combat strength, she was even stronger than Chen Hao. At least she thought so. The only difference was her recovery speed and endurance, which were far inferior to Chen Hao's. Otherwise, her personal record wouldn't be so much lower than Chen Hao's. The old man soon returned and announced the result. The original reward of 100,000 points was directly increased to 200,000 points. The experience of 1 million upper-grade primordial crystal stones was increased to 2 million. After the distribution according to the ratio of the Guardian Group's record, the Proud Heaven Guardian Group alone got 40,312 points and 403,120 upper-grade primordial crystal stones. The Wild Wolf Guardian Group only got about half of the Proud Heaven's points, and the rest was divided among the 29 Guardian Groups. The difference was not very big. On average, they couldn't be compared with Proud Heaven's points. However, the members of the Guardian Group didn't have any dissatisfaction or jealousy. After all, the points were distributed completely according to the record. Moreover, because the points were doubled, their harvest was much higher than expected. I didn't expect our harvest to be so big. Very good. Now, according to the ratio of our individual record, Miss Meng will enjoy the treatment of an official member. This is what we agreed on. As for the 6 of you, you can only get 70% of the points according to the ratio of your record. The deducted 30% will be equally distributed to the official members of Proud Heaven. This is also what we agreed on. Is there any problem? Chen Hao said after leading everyone to a place with fewer people. No problem. The 6 of them said. Although the record of the 6 of them was less than 1/3 of the record of First King, Gao Dazhuang and the others. But they still had 900 points, and after deducting 30%, they still had more than 600 points. They were only level 1 guardians, but they could get 100 or 200 points more than the average. What was there to be dissatisfied with? The 6 of them had never even considered joining Proud Heaven. Everything they had experienced so far surpassed anything they could ever have imagined. Considering that they were in the company of a freak like Proud Heaven, there was no way they could possibly keep up with him. If it weren't for the fact that Chen Hao had taken care of them, they would have long since died. They didn't want to take any risks. After all, they were friends with Chen Hao and the others. Once they encountered danger beyond what Chen Hao and the others could bear, they would definitely be abandoned. At that time, they wouldn't even know how they died. Soon, Chen Hao finished distributing everyone's points through the commander's token. Chen Hao alone got more than 4,500 points, and more than 45,000 high-grade primordial crystal stones. Meng Xiao got 1/5 less than Chen Hao, and First King, Gao Dazhuang and the others got 1/5 less than Meng Xiao. Seeing that Chen Hao, first king, and the others didn't invite her to join Proud Heaven, Meng Xiao couldn't help but ask, "Commander Chen, what are you going to do next?" "Look at them. I'm a temporary commander, but my points are temporarily in the lead. They can do whatever they want. I'm going to the cultivation hall to cultivate for a while. Why, are you interested in joining us?" Chen Hao looked at Meng Xiao and asked with a slight smile. In the past few days of cooperation, Chen Hao had seen Meng Xiao's strength. If this woman joined Proud Heaven, it would naturally be a good thing. Moreover, Chen Hao could also feel that this woman's character was not bad. Hearing Chen Hao's words, although the sisters' expressions didn't change, they couldn't help but get closer to Chen Hao, showing an intimate appearance. That appearance was obviously aimed at Meng Xiao. Although the sisters were confident that their appearance, figure, and so on were better than Meng Xiao, but in terms of cultivation talent and combat power, they seemed to be inferior to Meng Xiao. Of course, the main reason was that Meng Xiao's cultivation level was higher than the two of them at the moment. After they were promoted to the middle stage of the Essence Spirit Realm, it was hard to say. At least the two of them together would not be worse than Meng Xiao. Meng Xiao looked at the two women with a slight smile and said, "Okay, but I have a condition." "Condition?" Chen Hao was slightly taken aback, and then the corners of his mouth slightly hooked up and said, "Sorry, although Miss Meng is excellent, it's not to the extent that you want to make conditions with us. Don't get me wrong. My condition is not to be a commander, nor to ask for special treatment. First King Jing Tiangang and Bailey Lianqing should know about me and Huyan Aobua. I just hope that after I join Proud Heaven, you won't recruit Huyan Aobua anymore. I'm worried that he will also choose you." Meng Xiao said. "Oh, who is Huyan Aobua?" Chen Hao asked. "Awesome person. He is on par with Miss Meng, known as Cough Cough. In fact, he is the leader of our Songyuan city's younger generation. But compared to you, boss, he is a bit worse. That guy doesn't need Miss Meng to say anything. We can't let him join us," Bailey Lianqing said. Now it was very easy to call him boss, and the word temporary had long been thrown aside. "Yes, we can't let him join us," Jing Tiangang said. "That guy's eyes are always on top of his head, and his nose is always in the sky. More importantly, he is dissolute by nature, mother. In Songyuan City, if not 100, there are dozens of beautiful sisters who were harmed by that guy. Cough cough." Jing Tiangang seemed to have thought of something, and awkwardly coughed and didn't continue. In fact, all the youths in Songyuan City didn't understand. Meng Xiao was a first-class beauty, and more importantly, her talent, realm, and so on were all high and mighty existences. Any normal man would have the desire to conquer this goddess of Songyuan City. But Huyan Aobua didn't have any feelings for Meng Xiao. Similarly, Huyan Aobua was the prince charming in the hearts of countless people, but Meng Xiao also didn't have any feelings for Huyan Aobua. As for Jing Tiangang saying that Huyan Aobua was dissolute by nature, it was out of jealousy in his heart. It was just that there were too many girls throwing themselves at Huyan Aobua. Chapter 402. Bailey Lianqing, Jing Tiangang. I treated you two as my brothers, but you actually dare to speak ill of me behind my back. Who have I harmed? Right at this moment, to everyone's surprise, a dissatisfied voice sounded out. Then a youth in black clothes and a bamboo hat appeared in front of everyone at a seemingly slow speed, but his speed was surprisingly fast. When she saw this figure, Meng Xiao frowned, but her expression did not show any surprise. Obviously, she already knew of this young man's existence and could confirm his identity. It was also because of this that Meng Xiao proposed a condition to Chen Hao. The reason was simple, because Meng Xiao knew that this guy was already paying attention to Proud Heaven. Last time when she temporarily joined Proud Heaven, she had already noticed this guy. And this time when she returned and saw him hiding in the crowd, she was even more certain of his intentions. I, Huyan Aobua, am handsome, elegant and charming. Everyone loves me. Flowers bloom when they see me. But this is innate. What does it have to do with me? I admit that if I wanted to harm someone, I could indeed harm a lot of people. But I've always been a clean and honest person. I'm neither a romantic nor a pervert. I'm already 24 years old, but I'm still a virgin. I still have my first kiss. I'm a classic example of a pure and good man who's never been touched by a single leaf. Who have I harmed? As Huyan Aobo spoke, he took off his bamboo hat and gently stroked his flowing bangs. He had a somewhat wanton and unrestrained feeling as he stared at the embarrassed Jing Tiangang and Bailey Lianqing. This guy was obviously asking for a beating, but he said it in a serious manner, making people feel as if it was really the case. Moreover, this guy's appearance indeed gave people a kind of stunning feeling. His skin was sparkling and snow-white. His eyebrows were sharp and his eyes were sharp. There was a scar on his left cheek. Not only did it not look ugly, but it also added a bit of manliness. The scar was obviously a new injury, but it was wrapped in a strange energy, hindering its recovery. Meng Xiao, you're too petty. Are you afraid of losing, or afraid of falling in love with me? Before you started the mission, I found that proud heaven was more suitable for me. You were one step ahead of me. I'm a man, so I let you go first. At this time, you still won't let me join. Based on what? Based on you being more voluptuous than me? Cough cough. Seeing that Meng Xiao was about to flip out, Huyan Aobo once again changed his target, taking a step forward to Chen Hao's side. With a flattering smile on his face, he bowed his head and said, "Boss, I've come to report." "How dare you call me boss?" "Boss, you can't take it. This guy talks like a lunatic and thinks he's infallible. He even specially made a scar on his face to look cool. What's the use of such a show-off?" Zhang Rongrong, who originally didn't express his opinion, said at this time, "That's right. What do you mean by handsome and elegant? Compared to my Zhuang, he's like a clown. Boss Chen, why don't you take Xiaomeng? She's more reliable." Bai Xiaomei said with a disgusted expression. However, unlike Zhang Rongrong and the other outsiders, First King, Jing Tiangang, Bailey Lianqing, and Meng Xiao were all surprised when they saw Huyan Aobo's appearance. Zhang Rongrong and the others didn't know, but they clearly knew that Huyan Aobo was absolutely high up in the entire Songyuan city's younger generation. Not only was his personal strength second to none, but he was also a typical devil incarnate. First King wanted to say something but hesitated. In fact, he didn't approve of Huyan Aobo joining Aotion. The reason wasn't because Huyan Aobo wasn't good enough, but because he was too troublesome. First, he never submitted to anyone. Second, he had countless enemies. No matter which guardian group received him, he would be a hot potato. But at this moment, he actually directly called Chen Hao boss. Not only did he call him boss, but he also bowed his head and looked like he was sincerely convinced. Was this still the devil incarnate? "You're Huyan Aobo?" Chen Hao ignored everyone's words and stared at Huyan Aobo. Cough cough. Yes, boss. I'm Huyan Aobo, the leader of Songyuan City's younger generation. There's no one else. Meng Xiao isn't my opponent at all. I'm just letting her go. A good man doesn't fight with a woman. Boss, drink. What made everyone speechless was that at this time, Huyan Aobo actually took out a wine cup, filled it to the brim with respect and flattery, and handed it over to Chen Hao with both hands. Chen Hao took it in an ostentatious manner, drank a mouthful, and then said, "Is that so? Why do I feel like Miss Meng is letting you go?" Since boss thinks so, then this little brother must have made a mistake. This little brother is not as good as Meng Xiao. She's not very voluptuous, but she's still a beauty. If boss likes her, then go ahead and take her. Although I have an engagement with her, it's all done by those old bastards. It has nothing to do with us. After 3 years, I'll definitely cancel. No, sister-in-law, I admit defeat. You can cancel the engagement now and throw yourself into boss's embrace. Chen Hao spat out a mouthful of wine onto Huyan Aobo's face. He even stretched out his hand and slapped Huyan Aobo's head, saying, "What nonsense are you talking about?" But what made everyone surprised was that Huyan Aobo didn't even frown, nor did he dodge, saying, "Ah, so boss doesn't like her. I already said that boss's appetite shouldn't be that bad. It's a misunderstanding. Then I'll defeat her in 3 years and divorce her. Bastard. How could Meng Xiao endure such humiliation?" With a curse, she kicked towards Huyan Aobo. But what was different from Chen Hao was that her kick was blocked by Huyan Aobo's protective aura. Everyone was stunned by the scene in front of them. What kind of play was this? Boss, I'm your little brother. You asked me to report, I'm already here. I don't object to boss wanting her, but you must want me. I'm boss's man, I'm boss's ghost. 3 years ago, your little brother was as lonely as snow. Today, 3 years later, I met boss, this bright light. If you don't want me, I can only die to show my sincerity. Huyan Aobue continued. Chen Hao almost spat out another mouthful of wine. When everyone heard Huyan Aobue's words, they also realized something. It seemed that this guy and Chen Hao had already crossed paths. Moreover, he had already been taught to be obedient by Chen Hao. First King, what do you think? Chen Hao looked at Meng Xiao's appearance, turned his head and asked the First King. I think it should be up to Miss Meng. Indeed, it should be up to Miss Meng. Don't, boss, can you bear to watch me die? However, our Aotian is currently lacking people. Including Miss Meng, there are only 11 people. If Huyan Aobo is Miss Meng's mortal enemy, then he can't join Aotian. No matter how outstanding he is, he can't join Aotian. Even if he's already my little brother. But it's obvious that your grudge is a forced marriage. This is a small matter. Aotian needs elites. Since you all want to join Aotian, you must think about the development of Aotian. You must put aside personal grievances, especially this kind of small grievances. So I hope that both of you will join Aotian. Chen Hao ignored Huyan Aobue, stared at Meng Xiao and said, Miss Meng, what do you think? Meng Xiao frowned and pondered for a moment, then said, let him join. But unless Aotian is in a life and death situation, otherwise, you can't let me cooperate with him. Only a ghost would want to cooperate with you. Huyan Aobue said. This is no problem. Chen Hao said. Take out the tokens. At the place where the Guardian group was registered, Chen Hao officially incorporated the two into Aotian's organization. Although Jing Tiangang, Bailey Lianqing and others were still a little unhappy, but what's done can't be undone, so they didn't say anything. After all, Huyan Aobue's strength was there. A welcome banquet was naturally unavoidable. The banquet was still at the Sea Sky Tavern. Xiao, you also arranged for us to sit at the same place as last time. This time we don't need to give a tip, right? This time, let's go to the top floor, I'll treat everyone. When everyone arrived at the entrance of the Sea Sky Tavern, Chen Hao suddenly said to Meng Xiao. Meng Xiao was slightly stunned, and immediately her heart was incomparably surprised. But her face was full of embarrassment and shyness. In any case, she would never have thought that Chen Hao would see through her identity. One must know that at that time, she was wearing a high-grade spiritual treasure, concealing appearance-changing chain. Even a Fortune Realm expert would not be able to detect it, so how could Chen Hao detect it? This made her very embarrassed. And the shyness was because of the way Chen Hao addressed her, but after a moment, she was speechless. Brothers and sisters, this time we return triumphantly from the mission. The harvest is quite big. Miss Meng and Huyan Aobue, two great talents, have joined Aotian. Today I am very happy. So this wine I'll treat. At the top floor, you can drink whatever you want, eat whatever you want. You can pay for it, no need for public funds. Chen Hao said in an incomparably forthright manner. After drinking, under Jing Tiangang and Bailey Lianqing's interrogation, everyone finally knew how Huyan Aobue got to know Chen Hao, and how he was taught a lesson. It turned out that this guy had followed them when they were doing the mission. Just like Meng Xiao, he had taken a fancy to Aotian, but after Meng Xiao joined first, he could not put down his face and was prepared to play a trick. First, he wanted to tease Meng Xiao, and second, he wanted to see what kind of boss Aotian Duke had chosen. He did not expect that Chen Hao would see through him, and he almost lost his life. Of course, if it was not for the fact that he did not have any bad intentions, he would have died a long time ago. The scar on his face was a masterpiece left behind by Chen Hao. Furthermore, Chen Hao had inadvertently activated the Undying Sword Dao, causing his wound to not be able to heal even after a few days, and he was always surrounded by the Undying Sword intent. This kind of situation was when he was in his peak state. Chen Hao was fighting alone outside for a few hours, and the sisters and First King could not hold on any longer, and had returned to the base to recover. What if Chen Hao was in his peak state? When the banquet was over, Chun Hao once again hugged the drunk sisters and said goodbye to everyone. The sisters' disguise was very good. Although Chun Hao had the high-grade spirit treasure, Heavenly Eye, and could see through Meng Xiao's disguise and discover Huyan Aobo following them, he could not tell that the sisters were pretending to be drunk. So, when this guy put the sisters on the bed, he even fiercely touched them, almost reaching into their clothes. It could be considered as a reward for carrying them back. Anyway, they did not know, right? Chapter 403. The brilliant sword light contained the terrifying power of lightning and the aura of destruction. It killed the powerful monsters one after another. Cheers erupted from the crowd. This was a gigantic palace. The great hall of 1,000 feet in circumference was filled with young disciples, both male and female. There were more than 10,000 of them. Every one of them had an extremely powerful aura. At this moment, everyone was staring blankly at the huge light screen in the hall. If Chun Hao saw this scene, he would definitely think that he had returned to Earth. Because this scene was no different from a movie theater. The only difference was that the displays on the screen were magical equipment and techniques, not advanced technology. At this moment, the scene displayed on the screen was of a young girl fighting in a dense horde of monsters. This young girl was wearing a blue dress and a black veil. Although her face couldn't be seen clearly, her graceful and exquisite figure caused the hearts of countless youths to sway. Junior sister Chen Shui is actually so strong. Yeah, he's too strong. I remember that junior sister Chen Shui was only at the early stage Essence Soul realm when she first came over. Her realm had yet to stabilize. In the short span of a year, he has already advanced to half-step to manifestation. Based on his momentum, he will definitely be able to trigger the heavenly punishment and step into the manifestation realm in less than 3 years. 3 years? Only you can say that. Haven't you heard about junior sister Chen Shui's situation? What's the situation? 100 years of pregnancy? What do you think? Was this for real? She can't be. She'll lower your voice. I heard it from a personal disciple of immortal sovereign Yun Wei. But it shouldn't be fake. The hall master had already disappeared for more than 100 years. This time, she returned with junior sister Chen Shui. Could it be fake? Furthermore, if not for that situation, no matter how talented she was, it was impossible for her to advance so quickly in half a year. The primordial spirit realm was not the same as the Jindan, Yuanying, or incarnation realm. Furthermore, it was said that junior sister Chen Shui had truly fused with all of them by chance. Otherwise, how could eldest senior brother and second senior brother possibly fight because of junior sister Chen Shui? That's true. I wonder who junior sister Chen Shui will choose. Choose who? You're really an idiot. Have you gone stupid from cultivating? Could it be that you don't know that junior sister Chen Shui already has someone she likes? It can't be? Is there someone more outstanding than eldest senior brother and second senior brother? Definitely not. However, being outstanding doesn't mean that you'll be able to gain junior sister Chen Shui's favor. Who is it? I don't know. In any case, junior sister Chen Shui had broken through this round in order to leave Cold Plum Hall. If nothing unexpected happened, she would be going to find the person she loved. The palace master had already agreed. It was said that this was the knot in junior sister Chen Shui's heart when she stepped into Blessed Realm. From the looks of it, there's a chance of success. Too slow, too slow. It had been a year, and he didn't know what level he had advanced to. This time I must pass. No one can stop me. While everyone was shocked by Chen Shui's performance, Chen Shui, who was immersed in the battle, clenched her teeth and firmly said in her heart. Ever since she was captured by her mother, she had been cultivating in Limitless Immortal Palace's Cold Plum Hall. Besides following the disciples in the hall and occasionally participating in the beast tide in a certain city, or the war with the alien races, he had no freedom at all. The cultivation environment was indeed countless times better. He could enter and exit all kinds of cultivation treasures as he pleased. But Chen Shui felt like a bird in a cage, without any freedom. Especially when she had to face some annoying fellows. Other than cultivation, there was nothing else she could do. Once she stopped, her mind would wander off into the distance. thinking about what Chun Hao was doing, what level of cultivation he had reached, who he had met, and so on and so forth. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that she shouldn't have returned, especially when she left without saying goodbye. How worried would Chun Hao be? Would he blame her? Seeing that the 3-year time limit for Xia Yuyu, Helian Wuxi, and Tantai Lian was about to arrive, how could she endure it? She knew from Chun Hao that the 3 people who were taken away by Apotheosis Yunwei after the Eastern Continent sect exchange had agreed with Chun Hao to meet once every 3 years. Now there were only a few months left. No matter what, she had to succeed before the 3-year time limit. She had to return to the Eastern Continent to meet Chun Hao. This girl is crazy. Apotheosis Immortal Han Mei, who was the nameless old man and Chen Shui's mother, sat in front of the screen. At this moment, she had already taken off her bamboo hat. Her skin was as smooth as snow, and her appearance was 60% similar to Chen Shui's. However, her snow-white hair and the vicissitudes of life in her eyes showed that she was old. At this moment, she stared blankly at Chen Shui on the screen as she thought to herself. This was the test for Cold Plum Hall's disciples. Basically, only disciples who had stepped into the creation realm had a chance of passing the test. However, Chen Shui, who had just advanced to the half-step creation realm, stubbornly requested to pass the test. If she succeeded, even she would not be able to restrict Chen Shui's freedom. This was the rule of Wuji Immortal Palace. Forget it. Let her be. Apotheosis Immortal Han Mei said helplessly when she saw the last monster fall in front of Chen Shui. Amazing. Hallmaster, Chen Shui's sword technique is probably not as powerful as the ultimate technique of our Wuji Immortal Palace. It can actually kill an early-stage creation realm monster. It's really incredible. What's the name of this sword technique? An old man sitting beside Apotheosis Immortal Han Mei looked at Apotheosis Immortal Han Mei and asked. This is her own encounter. I don't know. Apotheosis Immortal Han Mei said with a smile. Did I pass? I passed. I passed. Chen Shui, who was covered in blood and heavily injured, hunted in a frenzy. When the last and most powerful beginner stage Blessed Realm monster fell in front of her, a hint of surprise appeared on her beautiful face hidden behind the veil, and she said, Thank you for your help, Master. Perhaps it was because she was too tired, or because her injuries were too serious, or perhaps it was because she was mentally relaxed. After she finished speaking, she fell to the ground. Master, I want to pass the test too. Me too. At this moment, 2 disciples stood up and said to an old man sitting beside Apotheosis Immortal Han Mei. The aura of these 2 people was obviously at the peak of the half-step manifestation realm. One was tall and powerful, while the other was handsome. These 2 people were the chief disciple and the second disciple of Cold Plum Hall. Apotheosis Immortal Han Mei had no feelings for these 2 young people. She had left for more than 100 years, and when she came back again, the entire Cold Plum Hall had become the deputy hall master's world. Now, she was just a hall master who was just a figurehead. And these 2 people were the deputy hall master's proud disciples. Good, you can't be defeated by junior sister. Yes. In Songyuan City, only level 3 guardians could enter the 3rd floor of the cultivation hall. In the gravity field cultivation area. Chi. In the 1200 times gravity field area. A figure was sweating profusely as he kept making simple sword movements. Sometimes he stabbed, sometimes he spun, and sometimes he slashed. Every sword movement didn't contain any true yuan, but just by relying on the strength of his body, it produced a sound that pierced through the air. What was even more surprising was that this young man didn't contain any true yuan when he swung his sword, and there was no true yuan fluctuation on his body. Obviously, he was completely relying on the strength of his body to withstand the 1200 times gravity field pressure. Boss is too strong. That's how idols are trained. Tis. Brothers, look at his eyes. Doesn't he look like a cat in heat? If boss fainted, I'm afraid he would be raped, right? Of course, sister-in-law Huan would have to allow it. Scram. Huyanabwa, if I become sister-in-law, I'll see how you die. TSK. Save it. If boss was interested in you, he would have taken you long ago. Why would he wait until now? But then again, could it be that boss was sick in the head? Huan Lele is obviously sister-in-law level, but boss has never touched her before. Huyan, do you really want to die? The Lung sisters were furious. Not only were they embarrassed, but they also felt wronged. It had been a year. It had been almost a year. They couldn't remember how many times they had been drunk. They had been given plenty of opportunities, but that guy would always touch them and be done with it. He didn't take any further action. Could it be that they were so different from the 4 godmothers he mentioned? Cough cough. I'm just worried for you guys. As the saying goes, a man chasing a woman is like a mountain. A woman chasing a man is like a piece of paper. You guys obviously like boss, so you did it. Boss is righteous, so shouldn't he be responsible? Moreover, he's obviously interested in you guys too. Yes, Huan Lele. It's not that I want to lecture you, but you should learn from me. Look at our Zhuang. Isn't he obedient to me now? Once boss finishes his cultivation, we'll leave Songyuan City and begin our journey. When the time comes, we'll have a big drink. And, you guys should help us. We'll work together to get boss drunk. When the time comes, the 2 of you can take care of boss. Of course, if you don't have any objections, you can also bring Shi Yao along. Bai Xiaomei spoke in an extremely sinister manner, as if she was an experienced person. The sisters and Meng Xiao wished they could find a hole to hide in. Especially Meng Xiao. It had to be said that in this 1 year, Meng Xiao was fascinated by Chen Hao. Her eyes and heart were filled with Chen Hao's figure. But he had the sisters. How could she have the nerve to snatch them away? At this moment, Huyan Bo, that bastard's words were already enough, but Bai Xiaomei's words were so direct to the Lung sisters that she couldn't find a way out of this embarrassing situation. However, she was possessed and forced herself not to retort because she really wanted to know the Lung sisters' attitude. After all, in her heart, no matter what, she was still the third party. Right at this moment, Lin Hao suddenly let out a cry of surprise, his eyes staring straight at a figure that was walking towards them. Lin Hao, when Chen Hao established his position as boss, became the 13th member of Aotion. As the leader of the younger generation in Emerald Smoke City, his aptitude was a little lacking compared to the others, but the gap wasn't big. In addition, he had some relationship with Chen Hao, so the others didn't have any objections to him joining. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 404. What a beautiful woman. I like her. Beauty, how are you? Everyone followed Lin Hao's gaze. Huyan, Jing Tiangang, and Bailey Lianqing's eyes lit up as they widened their eyes. Huyan and Jing Tiangang were still fine as they exclaimed in admiration. As for Bailey Lianqing, he looked as if he had lost his soul as he spoke while drooling. Big sister-in-law. Lin Hao, who was also dumbstruck, only reacted after hearing everyone's words. He stuttered as he called out. Wrong. You should call her 6th sister-in-law. Don't fight with me over her. Bailey Lianqing stared unblinkingly at the beauty who was approaching them. He wiped off the drool on his mouth as he spoke with a red face. Scram. She's obviously 5th sister-in-law. Don't waste your energy with your pig head. Jing Tiangang said. You 2 idiots, don't throw boss's face. Second brother hasn't even made a move yet. When did you get your turn? Huyan flicked his fringe as he spoke in a rather showy manner. Cough cough, 2nd brother, 5th brother, 6th brother. Do you want to die? Lin Hao's figure flashed as he stood in front of the 3 of them. His back was facing the rapidly approaching beauty as he looked at the 3 of them. He blinked his eyes as he spoke in a low voice. Oh, little 8, you've got guts, eh? Go to the side and stay there. Bang. Huyan, Jing Tiangang, and Bai Lianqing instantly joined forces. Like an eagle catching a chick, they directly grabbed Lin Hao and threw him backwards. Under the gravitational field that was more than 1,000 times stronger, these guys did not use the protective light of the token. They were completely relying on their own cultivation to resist the pressure of the gravitational field. This directly caused Lin Hao to come into close contact with the ground. His handsome face was almost flattened. He grimaced in pain and almost fainted. Wasn't this like a dog biting Lu Dongbin? Lin Hao, who originally wanted to stop these 3 people's brainless actions, simply shut his mouth. What a strong physical body. Gao Dezhuang, who was nestled in by Xiao Mei's bosom like a disgusting little bird, said with a strange light in his eyes as he stared at the approaching figure. Bai Xiaomei sensed the newcomer's aura and said, "He's in a gravity field that's 1,300 times stronger than normal. And he's not even using his quintessential origin. He's also so fast and strong. Perhaps only boss can compare to him. Even if we reach half-step into Blessed Realm, we won't be able to do that. So beautiful." The sisters and Meng Shiyao were all first-class beauties, and were full of confidence in their own figures and appearances, but at this moment, when they saw the person who came, they couldn't help but secretly praise in their hearts. Although they didn't feel ashamed of their inferiority, but the appearance, figure, temperament, and especially the temperament of the person who came, were absolutely superior to them. "Sister, I feel a little uneasy." "Me too." Lin Hao seemed to have called out sister-in-law. Lung Ninghuan and Lung Ningli stared at the newcomer as they transmitted their voices. The others didn't pay attention to Lin Hao's stuttering sister-in-law, but the two of them couldn't ignore it, because they knew that they had four godmothers. Moreover, Lin Hao and Chen Hao were quite close, and had known each other even earlier than they had known Chen Hao. "Hello, beautiful. I'm the second brother of Proud Heaven's guardian team, Huyan Aobua. I'm 25 years old, and I'm still single. People call me the pure and innocent young man. Do you want to join Proud Heaven? Although our boss is strict with his recruitment, with me, Huyan Aobua, I can guarantee that you'll become a member of Proud Heaven. Don't you know your name? Where are you from?" "Beautiful, don't pay attention to this show-off. If you want to join Proud Heaven, Jing Tiangang, just say a word, and that's enough. Although I'm the fifth brother, boss trusts me the most. Beautiful, I Bailey Liancheng, am honest and clean. I'll talk to boss and guarantee that you'll become one of Proud Heaven's main forces." The three of them stood in a row, blocking the path of the intruder. Moreover, the true essence fluctuations of the three of them condensed into an invisible qi wall, blocking the intruder's line of sight and probing fluctuations. Obviously, although their heads were filled with blood, they still didn't forget their duty of covering for their boss. Moreover, they didn't fight because of each other's provocation. However, all three of them, without exception, had their burning gazes fixed on the beautiful face of the person who had just arrived. Although they were separated by a few feet, such a close distance made the hearts of the three of them sway. Their hearts were jumping with joy. Regardless of whether it was her aura or appearance, wasn't she the most ideal Dao companion in their hearts? The person frowned slightly, glanced at the three of them and said, "I'm looking for Chen Hao." Cough cough, beautiful, when our boss is cultivating, he won't see anyone. If there's anything you need, just look for us. To tell you the truth, if you're a man, our boss may still see you. But you're a woman, and a beautiful woman at that. Our boss will never see you. Huyan Aobo said with experience. Yes, there are too many women who want to see our boss. But our boss is already taken, he doesn't fool around. Jing Tiangang added without hesitation. Hearing the two's words, the person's slightly frowned eyebrows relaxed, and a faint smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. "But, beautiful, look over there. That pair of sisters is our sister-in-law, and the other one might also be our sister-in-law. To tell you the truth, although our boss is famous, he's a henpecked husband, so if there's anything you need, just tell us." The person's relaxed expression was ruined by Bailey Liancheng's words. 3 in just a short year, there were 3 of them, and he was a henpecked husband? How could the person's expression be good? At this moment, the person's gaze was like 2 incomparably sharp swords, looking straight at the Lung sisters and Meng Shiyao. The sisters and Meng Shiyao were carefully sizing up the person, and separated by 1,000 feet, the 4 pairs of eyes collided. They had encountered this kind of scene many times. Every time a woman came, Huyan Aobo and the other 2 would immediately help their boss solve the problem. And in most cases, the sisters and Meng Shiyao would become the focus of attention. And basically, every time the person saw the sisters and Meng Shiyao, they would obediently retreat. But this time was different. The person's gaze faintly carried a strong sense of examination and hostility. This made Meng Shiyao frown slightly, her gaze not giving way. But the sisters, who had already guessed the general situation, after seeing the person's gaze, hurriedly avoided it. Their small faces turned red, and even a little embarrassed. Of course they knew what Huyen Aobo and the other two were talking about. How could they not be embarrassed? Move aside. Very quickly the person retracted her gaze, looked at Huyen Aobo and the other two, and said coldly, "Beautiful, what do you want? Our boss is cultivating, no one can disturb him. Although I, Huyen Aobo, admire your beauty, but..." Boom. The newcomer's body suddenly released an incomparably sharp aura, causing Huyen Aobo to stop abruptly before he could finish his sentence. Jing Tiangang and Bailey Liancheng also did not expect the person to be so fierce. One by one, they violently activated the energy in their body, and in an instant, the expression on their faces became serious, as if they had changed into another person. They no longer had the infatuated look, and coldly stared at the person who came. Huyen Aobo took a deep breath and said, "Miss, don't tell me you want to fight? This area is very big, and it's all 1,300 times the gravity area. If you want to cultivate, you can choose any place. Our boss will take this area. If you want to find trouble, you are not qualified." Qualified. At this time, Lin Hao did not dare to continue hiding. In any case, the three of them had already lost face, so he quickly ran over here and said, "Fa." When the three of them heard Lin Hao's words, they immediately raised their noses and stared at Lin Hao, who was rushing over. "Sister-in-law, you are Chen Shue's sister-in-law, right? This little brother has seen sister-in-law and boss's elegance before," Lin Hao said loudly as he ran. Huyen Aobo, Jing Tiangang, and Bailey Liancheng's expression suddenly changed. Zhang Rongrong, Tan Hui Gao Dazhuang, Bai Xiao Mei Shirwang, and Meng Xiao, who just exchanged glances with Chen Shui, were also a little dumbfounded. They looked at each other, and obviously did not know what was going on. They had been with Chen Hao for a year, and although their relationship was not shallow, but because of the Lung sisters, they never mentioned anything about Chen Hao's relationship. "Who are you?" Chen Shui was wearing a blue dress. Perhaps because of the increase in her cultivation, she had become more beautiful than a year ago. Her eyebrows were slightly wrinkled, and her eyes were like shining swords as she looked at the unfamiliar face of Lin Hao and said, "This little brother is Lin Hao, Emerald Smoke City, Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce's young master. Sister-in-law, boss has sealed his divine sense and is cultivating. Second brother, fifth brother, and sixth brother did not know of your arrival. Please don't blame them. Fuck little 8. Why didn't you say so earlier?" This. Huyen Aobo was at a loss. Fuck, flirting with sister-in-law. How could this be? He immediately restrained his aura, rubbed his hands together, and looked at Chen Shui with an embarrassed face and said, "Sister-in-law, this little brother did not know of your arrival. What the three of us said just now was nonsense. Please don't take it seriously. Our boss often mentions you in front of us, but unfortunately, we have never had the chance to see sister-in-law's peerless demeanor. To be able to see you today is really a blessing of 3 lifetimes. Sister-in-law, let me introduce you. Aren't you all coming over?" Huyen Aobo slapped Lin Hao to the side and shouted at the first king and the others in the distance, fully displaying the demeanor of a second brother. "Sister-in-law, this is the third king. Greetings, sister-in-law." The first king's expression was normal, but there was a hint of hesitation on his face as he clasped his fists and said, at this time, if Chen Shui still kept a straight face, it would not be justifiable. Her expression softened, and she nodded slightly. "This is the fourth brother, Gao Dazhuang. This is the fourth sister-in-law, Bai Xiaomei." The loser otaku Luo Yin was struck by lightning and his soul entered the body of a descendant of the immortals. He should have been a noble descendant of the immortals, but he became a useless piece of wood in the lower realm. What's even more tragic is that this continent is full of chaos. The 3 great human empires are struggling bitterly, and the flourishing demon race has been divided into 36 countries and 72 territories. What's even more unbelievable is that Kai Wenji has become his mentor, Zhao Fian has become his classmate, and a large number of historical figures have become demon monarchs and demon marshals. This world is not easy to live in. Book number 2532249 to be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Chapter 405. This is 7th brother Zhang Rongrong. This is 7th sister Tan Hui. Cough cough, this is Meng Xiyao. Boss has never looked at her. Don't worry, sister-in-law. What we said just now was bullshit. We deliberately used boss as a shield. You. Meng Xiyao was angry and embarrassed. She couldn't wait to trample Huyan Aobue to death, but she forced herself to hold back and nodded at Chen Shui. These two are our bosses. Huyan Aobue had already scolded himself for being an idiot. Why did he have to introduce them to others? He could kick Meng Xiao away and ignore her, but the sisters were not easy to deal with. Although the relationship between the sisters and the boss was not clear, it was already like a flea on the monk's head. Many times, the ambiguous scenes were still vivid in his mind. How to introduce them? Introducing them as sister-in-law. It was obvious that the boss's inner courtyard was on fire. Introducing them like Meng Xiao would definitely offend the sisters. Wouldn't you be in an awkward situation? Sister-in-law. Just when Huyan Aobue didn't know how to continue, the sisters blushed and said, I'm Lung Ning Huan. This is my sister Lung Ning Lu. We are our grandfather. Grandfather? Everyone heard the sisters say the word grandfather and felt a little strange. Our grandfather and brother how are friends? Very close. Let us sisters acknowledge brother how is our godson. Godbrother. Sister-in-law. You're so beautiful. Lung Ning Lu interrupted Lung Ning Huan. Originally, when everyone started the introduction, the sisters were already discussing in private what to do. Lung Ning Huan wanted to tell the truth, so as not to cause Chen Shui to be dissatisfied with Chen Hao. But Lung Ning Lu was not willing to reveal her identity as a godson. But under Lung Ning Huan's insistence, she compromised. But now when Lung Ning Lu saw that Lung Ning Huan was about to say it, she regretted. Chen Hao was also a little embarrassed at this moment. Originally, the words of Huyan Aobue and the other two made Chen Shui's hair stand up in anger. She wanted to annihilate Chen Hao by force. But now everyone was calling her sister-in-law. Including the three girls, their attitude had undergone a shocking reversal. They were all obedient to her. This made her feel a little embarrassed. She was not the kind of woman who was overbearing and narrow-minded. Although she could still feel that the relationship between the sisters and Chen Hao was not simple, seeing the sisters' obedient and nervous appearance, how could she still be cold? More importantly, even though Chen Shui didn't want to admit it, she more or less felt very proud in her heart. Her little vanity was greatly satisfied. So much so that when Lung Ning Lu said God's sister, and praised her, sister-in-law is so beautiful, her beautiful face had completely softened. You don't have to be so restrained. I'm a very easygoing person. Where is he? Chen Shui wanted to say something, but seeing everyone's expression, she didn't say anything in the end. She directly asked, Sister-in-law, you'll see him when you go over there. Huyan Aobue instantly made an inviting gesture, bowing his head and taking on the role of a waiter. Just call me Chen Shui. I'm not used to this form of address. Although Chen Shui heard it very pleasing to the ear, but thinking that if Chen Hao was present, not to mention her, even Chen Hao would be very embarrassed. One must know that they were brother and sister. Although in the depths of their hearts, it had long surpassed the brother and sister relationship, but if they really wanted to break through this layer of paper, it would feel a little too fast and too sudden. At this point, Chen Shui seemed to have thought of something. Suddenly, she looked at everyone and said, I want to give him a surprise. Can you guys help me? A sister-in-law. Call me Chen Shui. Cough cough, this is too disrespectful to sister-in-law. Why don't I call you Miss Chen? Sure. And what does Miss Chen need us to do? Boss might need another 2 hours to complete his cultivation. Huyan Aobue said. Just pretend that you don't know that I'm here. You don't have to worry about anything else. Just do what you need to do, is that alright? Chen Shui looked at everyone and said, No problem. Huyan Aobue replied immediately. The others also nodded. Although they did not say it, in their hearts, they did not think much of Chen Shui's so-called surprise. They knew how abnormal Chen Hao's senses were. Not to mention Chen Shui, who was half-stepped to manifestation. Even a manifestation realm expert would not be able to hide in front of Chen Hao. What right did Chen Shui have to hide from Chen Hao? That's good. Chen Shui smiled faintly. As soon as she finished speaking, her entire body silently disappeared in front of everyone. There was not a trace of energy fluctuation, as if she had never existed. Huyan Aobua and the others pushed their senses to the limit, but they could not sense Chen Shui's presence. Only a pleasant and faint body fragrance proved that Chen Shui had once existed. Isn't this a little too exaggerated? Including the beautiful sisters, no one was not shocked. They had been with Chen Hao for more than a year, but Chen Hao had never used this kind of concealment skill in front of them. Of course, even if Chen Hao used it, they would not know. At this moment, who would not be shocked when they saw such a miraculous concealment skill? Only their eyeballs did not fall to the ground. He has the God's Eye, and I have the Mortal Dust Shield. Even if his carving skill is one level higher than mine, he will not be able to sense me. Chen Shui looked at everyone's shocked expressions, and the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. She smiled sweetly and once again revealed her signature pride. Her body flashed, and she silently walked in the direction Huyan Aobua had mentioned. After a moment, a figure appeared in Chen Shui's eyes at the corner. 1 year, an entire year. This familiar figure was like a ghost. Once Chen Shui relaxed, he would enter her mind and occupy all her thoughts. This made Chen Shui feel the pain of longing. This had never happened in the past. She had met and parted with Chen Hao several times, and she had always been able to keep her heart as still as water. However, it was only this parting that made her feel the torment of longing. The main reason was naturally that her relationship with Chen Hao had improved, and she had been greedily treated by Chen Hao many times. Another reason was that she had no choice but to leave without saying goodbye. Looking at Chen Hao, who was immersed in his cultivation, Chen Shui resisted the urge to rush over. Her beautiful little face shone with a strange radiance and pride. Yes, it was pride. Although Chen Hao's aura was only at the late stage of the primordial spirit realm, after experiencing several blows, Chen Shui no longer cared about Chen Hao's realm. This was a freak that could be ignored in front of any so-called genius. Moreover, even if Chen Shui wanted to care, she could not. Just by looking at Chen Hao's attacks, she knew that the gap between her and Chen Hao had not shrunk by much, even though she was half-stepped to the manifestation realm. Quietly looking at Chen Hao, who was sweating profusely and clearly enduring great pain as he swung his sword again and again, Chen Shui's beautiful eyes quietly became extremely peaceful. This feeling of steadiness and warmth made her very intoxicated. Other than Chen Hao, no one else could give her this feeling, not even her mother. In the gravity field of 1,300 times, he didn't even use a trace of inner yuan, but his speed and strength have already reached such a level. If he were to remove the restraints and use his inner yuan, how strong would he be? I've always thought that in this year, my solitary sword technique had been cultivated to the extreme, and should be on par with him. I didn't expect the gap to be so big. I wonder if he will blame me for leaving without saying goodbye. Staring at Chen Hao's figure, Chen Shui could not help but think of how her mother had forced her to leave without saying goodbye. She had seen Chen Hao frantically searching for her like a madman. Unfortunately, her mother had not allowed her to leave behind a single word. She did not know how long Chen Hao had been searching for her, and when he had left, but she could imagine how Chen Hao had felt at that time. What should we do? Sister-in-law's so-called surprise is obviously a surprise check. This is the first time I've seen such a powerful concealment technique. If boss is unable to detect it, Auntie Huan, Auntie Lu, I'm afraid you won't be able to get past this. You've already lived together with boss. Huyan Aobua transmitted his voice to everyone. Stop shouting. What lived together? It's just a palace. We'll just give it up. Lung Ninggle pouted and said. The sisters were also very sad, but their beautiful little faces could not help but reveal a trace of grievance. Before Chen Hao's arrival, although there was nothing between them and Chen Hao, but in the eyes of everyone else, they were definitely sisters-in-law. But now, as soon as the real sister-in-law appeared, these guys only worried about their boss. Why would they care about the sisters' feelings? Cough cough. She is indeed our sister-in-law, but you sisters have a better relationship with us. Can you give us some accurate information? Is there anything between you and boss? Or rather, do you have the confidence to conquer boss? If you do, then we can discuss a countermeasure. Even if it makes things difficult for boss, we still have to do it. Are you an idiot? Bai Xiaomei heard Huyan Aobu's words and immediately rolled her eyes. Xiao aside, Huan Huan and Lei Lei to boss to them. How is it normal? You are too weak. If this is the case, how can you fight for your own happiness? Isn't it normal for a man to have 3 wives and 4 concubines? Xiaomei, are you serious? Hearing Bai Xiaomei's words, Gao Dezhuang's eyes lit up as he asked excitedly. What do you mean? 3 wives and 4 concubines. Do you want to die? Bai Xiaomei pulled Gao Dezhuang's ear and said fiercely. Cough cough. I'm just asking. I'm satisfied as long as I have you, Xiaomei. Humph. Bai Xiaomei snorted and looked at the sisters. Sister-in-law may be excellent, but you are not bad either. When you saw her just now, you seem to be a head shorter. How can you do that? It's fine for us to call her sister-in-law, but if you think of boss as your boss, how can you call her sister-in-law? At most, you can call her sister. Chapter 406. That makes sense. How about this? Didn't sister-in-law just say that? She wants us to pretend that we don't know anything. Then we'll pretend that we don't know anything. Hee, that's enough. Besides, even if boss finds out, he can't punish us, right? Huyan Aobu said. No. Lung Ninghuan was the first to object. You don't know the real relationship between Brother Hao and us. Let's just tell Brother Hao that sister-in-law is here. Sister, we won't tell him. Aobu is right. We're just following sister-in-law's instructions. Listen to me this time. Anyway, we're not wrong. Lung Ninghuan said stubbornly. Although the 2 sisters' hearts were connected, and their appearances and personalities were almost the same, there were still differences. All right. Lung Ninghuan looked at everyone's eyes and finally nodded. Inverted slash. Chi. Boom. Chen Hao suddenly soared into the air. The elemental sword in his hand chopped down violently from a high altitude. There was a sharp piercing sound as it condensed into a sonic boom. Purely based on the strength of his body and the speed of his sword, it formed a sword energy that was 100 feet long. The sword energy seemed to have drained all of Chen Hao's strength. With a loud bang, Chen Hao fell to one knee and panted heavily. My body has completely adapted to the 1,300 times gravitational field. Chen Hao thought to himself as he felt the circulation of his muscles, veins and blood. At this moment, Chen Hao had exhausted all of his strength. However, in the terrifying gravitational field, Chen Hao did not feel uncomfortable at all. He did not even need to use his ethereal force to defend himself. This feeling was similar to when he had exhausted all his strength in the outside world. He only needed to lie down and rest to recover. Phew! Letting out a long sigh, Chen Hao stood up. With a thought, the energy barrier that surrounded him within a radius of 1,000 feet dissipated on its own. A smile appeared on his handsome and chiseled face. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly, naturally carrying a faint evil charm. He looked at his brothers and sisters who were staring at him not far away. Chen Shui, who was hiding nearby, couldn't help but blush, and the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. The gaze she looked at Chen Hao with was clearly provocative, but it was filled with pride that came from the bottom of her heart. It's been a year. Chen Hao thought to himself as he slowly walked towards the crowd. When he had stepped into Songyuan City, he had already determined his goal. That was to rush out of Songyuan City within a year. To most cultivators, the Songyuan City region was already a challenge. However, to him, it wasn't much of a challenge. Although this was the central continent, it was only the first step of training after entering the central continent. It was like a military drill before a great war. What he wanted was to truly charge into the central continent. Under his leadership, Proud Heaven had already become a third-rank guardian squad. Each of them had also become a third-rank guardian. For ordinary guardians and guardian squads, this growth speed was absolutely astonishing. However, the members of Proud Heaven were very clear that if they had wholeheartedly focused on upgrading their guardians and guardian squads, they wouldn't be at the third rank now. This was because they spent most of their time immersed in the cultivation hall. They didn't even have a quarter of the time to do missions. Moreover, every time they received a mission, Chen Hao would accept at least 2 missions that were filled with challenges and impossible to complete in the eyes of others. Strictly speaking, every mission was a time for them to test the effects of their cultivation. Their mission success rate was 100%. In just a year, Proud Heaven had become famous in Songyuan City. They had become the guardian squad that all the younger generation yearned for. Chen Hao had become the most mysterious boss. This was because only Huyan Aobua and the others could really come into contact with Chen Hao. Huyan Aobua, Meng Xiao, First King, and the others had all become idols of the younger generation. Proud Heaven had also recruited many young guardians, and they were all elites. No one dared to look down on Proud Heaven, who was only a third-rank guardian squad. Firstly, Huyan Aobua, Meng Xiao, First King, Jing Tiangang, Bailey Lianqing, and the elites that were recruited later were mostly geniuses from the top families in Songyuan City. Who dared to look down on them? Who dared to offend them? Secondly, although Proud Heaven was only a third-rank guardian squad, when they truly displayed their battle strength, even 5th and 6th rank guardians would have to avoid them. Boss. When Huyan Aobua saw that Chen Hao had come out of his cultivation state, they all laughed and called out to him. This made Chen Shui feel slightly strange. From the moment she came here and saw everyone's behavior, they should be very afraid of Chen Hao, this boss. However, at this moment, there was obviously no so-called fear. Is everything arranged? Chen Hao asked casually. It's all arranged. Huyan Aobua said. Let's leave. I guarantee there won't be any problems. A few of the main forces are already waiting for you at the Ocean Sky Tavern. That's good. Chen Hao said. At the same time, he glanced at the sisters, lowered his head and sniffed. Huan Lele, do I have a smell on me? At this moment, Chen Hao's clothes were soaked in sweat. Basically, every time he finished cultivating in the gravity area, he would be like this. However, the impurities in his body had long been removed. Not to mention that he was dripping with fragrant sweat. At least there wouldn't be any unpleasant smell. No, the sisters hurriedly said. Although they had already agreed to pretend that nothing had happened, when it really came to this, the sisters couldn't act as usual. After all, they knew that Chen Shui was nearby watching. Moreover, it was obvious that Chen Hao's abnormal perception didn't notice Chen Shui's concealment. When Huyan Aobua and the others heard Chen Hao's words, they didn't show any expression on their faces. They all looked like award-winning actors, but in their hearts, they felt that it was very fun. They were waiting for their boss to make a fool of himself. They naturally knew what Chen Hao meant. Under normal circumstances, as long as they weren't in battle, the sisters would be entangled around Chen Hao, one on the left and one on the right, like little birds, holding on to Chen Hao's arm. But now, the sisters were obviously affected by their sister-in-law, and didn't dare to be too intimate. That's a little strange. Chen Hao shrugged and said. He didn't continue to investigate and said, let's go. Ocean Sky Tavern. At the door of the most luxurious private room on the top floor, 10 young people with imposing appearances and powerful auras stood respectfully on both sides of the door with a hint of nervousness, as if waiting for the arrival of a big shot. At this moment, one of the young people's communicator vibrated. Boss will be here soon. Hearing the young man's words, everyone immediately straightened their backs and their expressions became more excited and nervous. I can finally see boss, I'm so excited. Damn, me too. I'm even more nervous than my first date with Lil Red. Nervous? Nervous about what? Isn't it just meeting? Boss. I'm not nervous at all. Phew. I'm not nervous. Useless. You haven't seen boss yet, but I think you're all about to piss your pants. Brother Aobua said that not only is boss not scary, he's also a super handsome guy. Many people who are fated to see boss can prove this. As for the rumors, they're all fake. Although we don't have the qualifications to see boss knows our situation like the back of his hand. Moreover, boss personally appointed us to come here. In the future, the entire Songyuan city will be in charge of us. If boss sees you like this, I'm afraid you'll have to scram. The young man who received the message said coldly after seeing everyone's expressions. However, although this guy looked calm, he wasn't much better than everyone else. His slightly trembling hands were the best proof. Brother Qin, we know that too, but we can't control ourselves. Especially when we think of Brother Aobua and Brother Tiangong's situation after they report to boss. Cough cough. Stop talking. Fuck, all of you close your eyes and adjust your breathing. Just treat it as a life and death battle. Damn it. The young man who was called Brother Qin said sternly as his whole body trembled. The people present were all people who were second only to Huyan Aobua, Meng Xiao and the other elders of Outyan City. However, they had never seen the mysterious boss before, because they didn't have the qualifications. However, they knew a lot about boss. Every time they trained in the cultivation gym or reported their work after completing a mission, they would see that among the 12 elders, except for the females, all of them were bruised and battered. It was a horrible sight to behold. What kind of people were the 12 elders? In their eyes, any one of them was an extremely terrifying existence. Not only were they powerful, but they were also capable of doing things. However, after being destroyed by boss, they were all docile and obedient. How terrifying was that mysterious boss? Especially when they were subjected to the elders' cruel corporal punishment. It was simply a fate worse than death. However, from the elders' mouths, the difference between what they were subjected to and what the elders were subjected to was like heaven and hell. Imperceptibly, Chun Hao's image had risen to a terrifying level in everyone's hearts. Moreover, no one was dissatisfied with it. Because of the speed at which their strength increased, because of their growth. Greetings. Greetings, boss. More than 10 minutes later, the 10 people saw Chun Hao and the others slowly walking over while talking and laughing. They saw the 12 elders crowding around a late-stage primordial soul realm cultivator. Compared to the 12 elders, he did not seem to have any advantage in terms of realm. Was this the legendary existence that even early-stage creation realm experts had to avoid? Moreover, he was handsome and had a hint of a smile on his lips. He looked harmless and was a young man who was younger than them. The 10 people widened their eyes and could not believe what they were seeing. This was the legendary three-headed, six-armed, fierce-looking boss? It was completely unrelated. Although the difference was huge, the 10 people did not dare to underestimate him. They looked excited and nervous as they cupped their fists and bowed. Their heads were almost in their pants as they bowed respectfully. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.